Chapter 839. Big Brother, it seems that this person's attainment in formations is not simple. Lu Yun nodded. Lu Yun thought for a moment and said, It seems that this person's strength is not as good as yours. But as you said, this person is very skilled in formations. Big Brother, what should we do now? This person has already asked me to bring him to Wanzhan's school. What do you mean? Lu Yun was shocked. Lu Fei seemed to have guessed something and wanted to laugh. He said with disdain, Even if Black Wolf's attainment in formations is not bad, he still thinks that he can compete with Wanzhan's school. Lu Yun was also a little depressed about this. Forget it. Since this person wants to give it a try, we'll grant him his wish. If his attainments in array formations are really that strong, then recruiting him can be considered as recruiting a genius for the Martial Arts Alliance. Lu Fei did not continue speaking. Since things had already reached this point, he did not know what else to say. Outside Fire Beacon City. At the peak of a mountain about a few thousand meters away from Fire Beacon Chin, Longao sat quietly on the peak of the mountain and focused on recuperating his body. In the battle with Lu Fei just now, if it were not for the help of the two little fellows at the end, it would be impossible for him to defeat Lu Fei in an instant. Inside the Dragon Seal space. Master, you took too much of a risk this time. If it wasn't for the two little fellows, the blood pool would have definitely devoured you. The consequences would have been unimaginable. Longao smiled. Since things had already come to this point, there was no point in saying anything more. Moreover, he did not want to dwell on this problem. After all, he was now the Vice Hall Master of the Martial Artists Alliance, and was one step closer to Yuan. Long Fu, is there no way to truly suppress the blood pool? Longao was very wary of the blood pool. No matter what, if the blood pool continued like this, it would always be a threat to him. Because no one knew when the blood pool would devour him. The best method was to forcefully suppress the blood pool. In this way, he would be able to sit back and relax. He wouldn't have to constantly worry about being devoured by the blood pool and becoming its puppet. Yes, but not now. Master, with your current strength, you are simply unable to forcefully suppress the blood pool. Moreover, the Dragon Seal has yet to recover. He was a little disappointed and a little unwilling. Seeming to have thought of something, Longao suddenly said, Long Fu, I've already cultivated up to the 10th seal of the Destruction Seal that you taught me, but I've discovered a problem. The power of the 10 seals seems to be about the same. The more I cultivate, the more it seems to be the case. What's going on? Regarding the Destruction Seal, Longao had always attached great importance to it. However, as mentioned earlier, as his strength continued to increase, Longao discovered more and more that not only would the Seal of Destruction devour his soul, its might was almost the same. If that was really the case, then why did he have to continue cultivating? He could just use the first seal directly. Since Master has already sensed it, I won't hide it from you. There really was a problem. Longao didn't say anything because he also wanted to know what was going on with the Destruction Seal. Unless it was absolutely necessary, he was truly unwilling to give up on the Destruction Seal. Master, with your talent and potential, even if you cultivated all 18 seals, you wouldn't be able to sense anything fishy. However, I never thought that Master's talent would be so great. Longao still didn't say anything, nor did he become angry. He only knew one thing, and that was that no matter when, Long Fu would never harm him. Master, there is actually only one seal in the Destruction Seal, the so-called Destruction Seal. Hearing this news, Longao was shocked, because he indeed never would have thought that the extermination seal technique that he painstakingly trained in only had one seal. No wonder no matter how he trained, he always felt that there was not much difference between the 18 seals. Long Fu, what's going on? Master, it's very simple. If you only cultivated the Destruction Seal, I was afraid that you wouldn't be able to do it with your talent. Therefore, I forcibly split the Destruction Seal into 18 seals. This way, Master would have more chances to succeed. However, I never thought that the split Destruction Seal would devour Master's soul. I see. In the end, Long Fu was doing it for my own good. However, it was precisely because of this that Longao was even more terrified of the destruction seal's might. Just the split 18 seals already had such great power. If the real destruction seal was even more terrifying, then how terrifying would it be? As if he could guess Longao's thoughts, Long Fu continued. Master, the destruction seal is a powerful martial skill that was born from the dragon seal itself. It has the power to destroy heaven and earth. However, it is also extremely difficult to cultivate. Even the old master back then didn't succeed in cultivating it. Before Longao could speak, Long Fu continued. However, master, your talent is unprecedented. Even the old master back then couldn't compare to you. If there are no accidents, master, you will be the first person to successfully cultivate the destruction seal. Can I really do it? Clenching his fists tightly, Longao kept telling himself that no matter how difficult it was, he had to succeed in cultivating the destruction seal. Long Fu had already said that the power of the seal of destruction was incomparably strong. If he could really cultivate it successfully, it would definitely be the most beneficial thing for him. Long Fu, I know what to do. Master, since you have already made up your mind, from now on, you don't need to continue cultivating the 18 seals. I will now teach you the chant and mental cultivation method of the destruction seal. Nodding his head, Longao also knew that this was no small matter. He didn't dare to relax in the slightest. In the following time, Longao wholeheartedly immersed himself in learning the destruction seal. If he didn't cultivate it, he wouldn't know. But when he started cultivating it, he was shocked. According to the chant, once the destruction seal was cultivated to the highest level, just the destruction seal alone was enough to destroy the entire continent. This was the true power of the destruction seal. Longao couldn't help but sigh. The more powerful the destruction seal was, the more he looked forward to it. He looked forward to the day when he successfully cultivated the destruction seal. At that time, no one would be able to hurt his family. As for him, he could also step onto the peak of martial arts and truly fight against the heavenly Tao. With the destruction seal, Longao would have another trump card against the heavenly Tao in the future. Longao wholeheartedly cultivated the destruction seal. When he really cultivated it, he realized that the destruction seal was even more difficult to cultivate than the 18 seals. No wonder even Long Tian, who was at the peak of his power back then, couldn't cultivate it successfully. In the middle of the night, the pitch-black night was exceptionally quiet. According to Long Fu, he only needed to integrate the chant and mental cultivation method of the destruction seal as soon as possible. As for cultivation, he couldn't be too hasty. Otherwise, he would only end up losing the rice used to lure it. P.S. Next week, 10 chapters a day. Little 9, go eat first. Continue writing later. If you don't want to wait, don't wait. Wake up tomorrow to read. Chapter 840. The next day. Inside the Martial Artists Alliance in Fire Beacon City. Longao's identity had changed dramatically after he entered the Martial Artists Alliance. Longao was now the Deputy Hall Chief of the Martial Artists Alliance. Even Lu Fei had to be polite to him. Longao, thank you for showing mercy yesterday. Pretentious. With regards to Lu Fei, Longao more or less still had some understanding. To say that Lu Fei could let bygones be bygones, he would not believe it even if he was beaten to death. However, their identities and places were different now. Longao would not be calculative with Lu Fei. He smiled and said, "You're welcome. I heard from Big Brother that you want to challenge the array master of Wanzhan's school?" Longao did not hide this matter. After all, he had told Lu Yun that he wanted to challenge the array master of Wanzhan's school. Nodding his head, Longao said, "As a formation master, of course I want to see a more powerful formation master, so that I can improve. What do you think?" "That's right. But I have to remind you that the array masters of Wanzhan's school are very powerful. If you don't have full confidence, I advise you not to humiliate yourself." He snorted in his heart. How could Longao not know what Lu Fei was thinking in his heart? It was simple. Lu Fei wanted to provoke him. He wanted to go to Wanzhan's school and challenge the array master of Wanzhan's school, but he was advising him. Lu Fei was shameless to the extreme. He had seen shameless people, but he had never seen someone as shameless as Lu Fei. He was so shameless that it was disgusting. Longao did not want to talk nonsense with Lu Fei. He found an excuse and left. Lu Fei sneered and said to himself, "Don't be so arrogant. I'll make you wish you were dead later." "Brother Lu, are you talking about this guy?" At this moment, a young man walked over from not far away. He was handsome and walked like an immortal. A man like this was definitely lethal to women. "Brother Dongfang, this is the black wolf I told you about. He's an array master, but he's a little arrogant. He challenged the Wanzhan school's array master. It looks like your Wanzhan school is in trouble this time." Dongfang Shuo, the son of the branch master of Wanzhan school, was also the young master of Wanzhan school in Fire Beacon City. As one of the top super geniuses of Wanzhan school, Dongfang Shuo had already broken through to Universe Emperor at a young age, and his strength was above Lu Fei's. If not, how could Lu Fei be so polite? He sneered. Dongfang Shuo did not put Longao in his eyes at all because he had full confidence in his sex array formation. In terms of strength, Dongfang Shuo had to admit that his sex strength was not as good as other superpowers. But when it came to array formation, Wanzhan school was second, and no one would dare to say they were first. "He's just a reckless guy. Brother Lu, you're too nervous." Before Lu Fei could speak, Dongfang Shuo continued. "Every year, countless people want to challenge us in order to become famous. But there is no doubt that everyone who challenges us is dead." He despised Dongfang Shuo because the Martial Artists Alliance and Wanzhan School were not on good terms. However, Wanzhan School's array formation was too powerful, and the Martial Artists Alliance could not suppress it at all. So, the two sides had been at peace for a long time. This time, Lu Fei wanted to use Wanzhan School to eradicate Black Wolf, the so-called Longao. "Brother Dongfang, I advise you to be careful. I fought with this person yesterday. Although his strength was not as good as mine, he defeated me with the help of his array formation." Although ordinary people did not know that Longao defeated Lu Fei, Dongfang Shuo definitely knew. Because of this, Lu Fei did not hide it at all, even if he knew it would be embarrassing. Hearing this, Dongfang Shuo laughed. His laughter was full of contempt and contempt. He said contemptuously, "Brother Lu, don't compare yourself with me, and don't compare yourself with Wanzhan School. You can't even deal with a little black wolf. I really doubt it." Seeing Lu Fei's gloomy face, Dongfang Shuo did not continue. No matter what, this was the opponent's territory. If Lu Fei took action, it would be difficult for him to leave the Martial Artists Alliance. "Brother Dongfang, cut the crap. I asked you to come here this time because I want to borrow your strength to eradicate this person. Why should I help you?" "Brother Dongfang, as long as you can help me kill this person, I will do my best to help you in the life and death world 10 days later. What do you think?" "Brother Lu, I believe you know more about the life and death world than I do. For so many years we, the third branch, have not found any secrets in the life and death world. Otherwise, the higher-ups would have intervened in this matter for so many years. Do you think I care about the life and death world?" "Dongfang Shuo, I know you like Murong Yena from the Sword Sect. If you help me, I will help you get her. Can you really do it?" Dongfang Shuo really wanted to get Murong Yena. After all, Murong Yena was the most beautiful woman in Fire Beacon City. Within 1,000 miles, many people regarded Murong Yena as a goddess. 100%. Dongfang Shuo did not say anything, because he chose to compromise for Murong Yena. Longao did not know about the shamelessness of the two from beginning to end. In the lobby. "Black Wolf Hall Master, you are finally here." "Hall Master, what's the matter?" Longao was very curious. He did not know why the other party was looking for him, but he seemed to be very anxious. Lu Yun looked really anxious and said, "Black Wolf, since you have become the Deputy Hall Master of the Martial Artists Alliance, you should have the right to know about the life and death world 10 days later." Life and Death World? Black Wolf, every year, our third branch will enter the life and death world. According to legend, there is the inheritance of a divine path warrior in the life and death world. The higher-ups have been paying attention to this matter, but every time we enter, we return without success. Gradually, the higher-ups no longer pay attention to this matter. Divine Path Inheritance. Longao was also looking forward to the Divine Path Inheritance. Although he already had thousands of Divine Path Inheritances, one more Divine Path Inheritance was better than nothing. If he could get the Divine Path Inheritance in the life and death world, why not? Longao did not speak, because he felt that he did not need to say more about this matter. Lu Yun would naturally tell him. Sure enough. Black Wolf, I believe you have already guessed it. 10 days later, I am going to send you to the life and death world. I hope you can help the Martial Artists Alliance find the Divine Path Inheritance. Longao was not excited, because he did not believe that Lu Yun would be so kind. Me alone? Every time the life and death world opens, only 10 people are allowed to enter under the seal of Aura. And the Martial Artists Alliance can only send 3 people. Chapter 841. Longao knew very well that Lu Yun wanted him to go to the life and death realm. If he didn't go, the Martial Artists Alliance would definitely deal with him. Without pressure, there would be no motivation. Without danger, there would be no growth. So, Longao had never been afraid of danger. No matter what, he had to improve his strength at the fastest speed, and the only way was to keep practicing. Because of this, Longao didn't refuse and said, Okay, after 10 days I will go to the life and death realm on behalf of the Martial Artists Alliance. Black Wolf, you said before that you want to go further and climb higher. He nodded. Was he going to meet Yu Yin in Fire Beacon City? Without a doubt, Yu Yin must be in the headquarters of the Martial Artists Alliance. No matter what, Yu Yin's master, Hades, was a divine realm martial artist. It was easy to figure out what was going on. Black Wolf, it's very simple. As long as you can find the legendary Divine Dao Inheritance in the life and death realm, I can guarantee that the higher-ups will summon you. The Divine Dao Inheritance in exchange for a chance. If it were other people, they would definitely not agree. After all, the Divine Dao Inheritance represented the peak of martial arts in this world. In the eyes of ordinary people, Divine Dao martial artists were the real peak experts. But Longao wouldn't do that. For his beloved, let alone one Divine Dao Inheritance, even if there were more than 1,000 Divine Dao Inheritances, he would still give them up. I understand. Lu Yun seemed to be very satisfied and said with a smile, I have already contacted the Wanzhan school. Since you want to challenge, I will fulfill your wish. But Black Wolf, I have to tell you in advance that you are only representing yourself. It has nothing to do with the Martial Artists Alliance. Do you understand? Shameless. Longao cursed in his heart. How could he not know what Lu Yun meant? Understood. In that case, come with me. Lu Yun left the Martial Artists Alliance with Longao, Lu Fei, and the 4 enforcers, and headed to Wanzhan school in a grandiose manner. No one knew who spread the news about the challenge, but the Wanzhan school, which was usually quiet, was packed with people today. Wanzhan school was one of the top 10 schools. As one of the top 10 superpowers in the Tianwu continent, Wanzhan school might not be the strongest, but when it came to formations, Wanzhan school was definitely the best. Even the Martial Artists Alliance, the Heaven and Earth sect, and the Long family couldn't compete with Wanzhan school. Within Fire Beacon City, the branch of the Martial Artists Alliance, the branch of the Wanzhan school, and the branch of the Sword sect jointly controlled Fire Beacon City. For countless years, the 3 branches had been living peacefully and didn't interfere with each other's business. Because of this, with the strength of Wanzhan school, even the people from the Martial Artists Alliance and the Sword sect didn't dare to casually provoke Wanzhan school, let alone ordinary people. Everyone started to guess who exactly Black Wolf was. As everyone knew, Black Wolf suddenly appeared and became the Vice Hall Chief of the Martial Artists Alliance for no reason. He even defeated Lu Fei from the Martial Artists Alliance. Although they admired this person, He Lang's sudden challenge to the 10,000 formation sect made everyone look down on him. They even thought that he had lost his mind. In other words, everyone thought that Black Wolf was courting death by challenging Wanzhan's school. In Wanzhan's school, in addition to ordinary people, all the members of the Sword Sect were present. Among them, the Sword Sect Master, Murong Guina, and the Sword Sect Master's daughter, Murong Yener, were sitting at the head of the table. In addition to the Sword Sect, there were also the Martial Artists Alliance and Wan'an School. Looking at Black Wolf, Dongfang Liang, the master of Wanzhan's school, felt extremely gloomy. Although he looked indifferent, anyone could guess that he must be very angry. Wanzhan's school's strength was obvious. No one dared to do this. A little Black Wolf dared to challenge Wanzhan's school in public. He didn't take Wanzhan's school seriously at all. Brother Dongfang, this time Black Wolf challenged your Wanzhan school. I wonder how you will deal with it. Dongfang Liang smiled and said, Brother Murong, you must be joking. A little trash dares to challenge Wanzhan's school. He's really courting death. Dongfang Liang didn't take the Martial Artists Alliance seriously at all. After all, Black Wolf was the Deputy Hall Master of the Martial Artists Alliance. If Black Wolf challenged Wanzhan's school, wouldn't it mean that the Martial Artists Alliance challenged Wanzhan's school? It would be strange if Wanzhan's school didn't give him any face. However, Lu Yun smiled and said, Brother Dongfang, although Black Wolf is the Deputy Hall Master of the Martial Artists Alliance, Black Wolf's challenge has nothing to do with us. As an array master, Black Wolf wants to see the array masters of Wanzhan's school. I can't do anything about it. Please forgive me. Brother Lu, you must be joking. Of course, Dongfang Liang didn't believe Lu Yun's words. Brother Lu, no matter what, Black Wolf is the Deputy Hall Master of the Martial Artists Alliance. Now I just want to ask you, what if there's an accident in the challenge later? Dongfang Liang didn't finish his words, but the meaning in his words was very clear. Lu Yun was not a fool. Of course, he knew what Dongfang Liang meant. He smiled and said, Brother Dongfang, I've said that Black Wolf's challenge is his own business. It has nothing to do with the Martial Artists Alliance. So, no matter what happens later, it has nothing to do with the Martial Artists Alliance. Okay. Longao looked at all the people around and didn't move at all. His courage alone was admired by many people. You're Black Wolf? Who are you? Dongfang Shu snorted. His face was full of disdain and contempt. He said, Black Wolf, don't think that you can challenge the Wanzhan school just because you know a little about formations. You talk too much nonsense. Longao shook his head helplessly and ignored Dongfang Shu. Instead, he said to Dongfang Liang, Master Dongfang, I, Black Wolf, officially challenge you. Anyone can fight. What an arrogant tone. Many people appreciated Longao's arrogance, but they didn't think highly of Longao. Still, the strength of the Wanzhan school was obvious. As the founder of formations, the Wanzhan school's formations were needless to say. They believed that no one in the world could beat the Wanzhan school. Dongfang Liang smiled and said, Okay. But Black Wolf, how do we calculate the result of your challenge to the Wanzhan school? Dongfang Liang was very confident. After all, the strength of the Wanzhan school was obvious. Longao didn't talk much nonsense. After all, things had come to this point. It was useless to say more. Since he had decided to challenge the Wanzhan school, he had thought about all the consequences. Master Dongfang, this time I challenge the Wanzhan school because I want to see a better formation master. So if I lose this battle, I will kill myself immediately. But if I win, I want to see the Million Swords formation of Wanzhan school. P.S. The second chapter is here. It won't be updated tomorrow morning because I have to sleep in. I will start writing at 2:00 in the afternoon and update after 3:00. There will be 10 chapters tomorrow. Don't rush me. Chapter 842. Infinite Ancestral Swords? Hearing that Longao wanted to challenge Wanjian School's infinite ancestral swords, everyone was shocked. They looked at Longao as if he was an idiot. Everyone knew. Infinite ancestral swords was one of the most powerful arrays in Wanjian School. Although Wanjian School's infinite ancestral swords was not even 1,000th of the real infinite ancestral swords, it was still a formidable array. For so many years, no one had dared to challenge infinite ancestral swords. Given the power of infinite ancestral swords, even illusionary divine martial artists would not dare to challenge it. After all, not knowing about arrays and knowing about arrays were two different concepts. Black Wolf, you are really arrogant, Dong Fangsha sneered. He did not expect Lin Fan to challenge infinite ancestral swords. Dong Fangsha thought for a while and continued. Black Wolf, do you really think that you can defeat Wanjian School? Longao did not speak. His meaning was clear. He was ignoring Dong Fangsha. No matter what, Dong Fangsha was just a master and not a master. There were some things that Dong Fangsha could not decide. Just as Dong Fangsha was about to explode, Dong Fangliang waved his hand and stopped him. Dong Fangliang snorted. Dong Fangliang sneered and said, Black Wolf, since this is the case, I will grant you your wish. Wanjian School accepted Black Wolf's challenge. Everyone looked at both parties. Some wanted to cry, and some wanted to laugh because this was the first time they had seen such a thing. Many people started to wonder about Black Wolf's identity. They did not know if he had eaten a leopard's guts. Not only did he challenge Wanjian School's array master, but he also wanted to challenge infinite ancestral swords. Black Wolf, how do you want to challenge? Wanjian School was the overlord of Fire Beacon City. Of course, they would not take the initiative to challenge Lin Fan. If so, they would be bullying the weak. After thinking for a moment, Longao said, Let's make it quick and decide the winner in one battle. Wanjian School can send one person to compete with me in matrices. Each person can set up a matrix and break through the matrix. The person who breaks through the matrix will win. What do you think? Before Dong Fangliang finished his words, Longao continued. As I said before, if I lose, I'll cut my own throat here. This has nothing to do with the Martial Artists Alliance. If I win, I'll try the sect of 10,000 swords. Longao's attitude was extremely confident. The more confident he was, the more the Wanjian School seemed to hesitate. Could it be that this person was really an expert in array formations? Dong Fangliang sneered in his heart. He did not believe that in the small Fire Beacon City, there was someone who could surpass Wanjian School in array formations. What's more, this matter involved the Martial Artists Alliance. Although Lu Yun and Black Wolf had said that this matter had nothing to do with the Martial Artists Alliance, Dong Fangliang was not a fool. If Black Wolf really defeated Wanjian School, the Martial Artists Alliance would be overjoyed. Things had come to this point, there was no way to retreat. Okay, Dong Fangsha, you go. Among the young generation of Wanjian School, his son, Dong Fangsha, was the strongest person in terms of strength and matrices. Again, with the status of Wanjian School, it was impossible for them to send a matrices master of the older generation. After thinking about it, they could only send the number one of the young generation of Wanjian School. However, Dong Fangliang was full of confidence, because in the whole Wanjian School, there were no more than 3 people who could surpass his son in terms of matrices, including himself. If his son lost, then this person's matrices mastery was needless to say. Dong Fangsha nodded, looked at Longao, and said coldly, Black Wolf, do you want to go first, or should I? Master first after you. Ha ha. Suddenly, Dong Fangsha looked up to the sky and laughed wildly, as if he had seen the funniest thing in the world. Because from the beginning to the end, he did not believe that in Fire Beacon City, there was someone who dared to challenge Wanjian School's array. Of course, everyone knew the meaning of Dong Fangsha's sudden crazy laughter. Everyone had the same mentality as Dong Fangsha. Not to mention others, even Lu Yun and Lu Fei of the Martial Artists Alliance were not optimistic about Longao. After all, the Wanjian School's matrices mastery was there. Longao did not talk nonsense. He walked to the side, sat down directly, and began to prepare quietly. Seeing this situation, everyone gave him a thumbs up, because this person's courage was commendable. After all, he could still be so calm in the face of the three overlords of Fire Beacon City. Dongfang Shuo saw that Black Wolf was ignoring him, so he did not talk nonsense, and arranged the so-called matrices on the spot. In this way, Dongfang Shuo's matrices mastery was clear at a glance. Wenjian's school had countless matrices, and the hierarchy was strict. As the young master of Wenjian's school, Dongfang Shuo naturally had access to high-level matrices. Therefore, the matrices that Dongfang Shuo arranged this time were called the Burning Eight Desolation matrices. According to Dongfang Shuo's matrices mastery, it would take at least 6 hours to arrange the Burning Eight Desolation matrices, and it would also require outside help. However, Dongfang Liang did this in secret. Otherwise, if people knew that Wenjian's school needed help, even if they won, Wenjian's school would lose face. Brother Lu, congratulations to the Martial Artists Alliance for recruiting such a talent. Regardless of Black Wolf's matrices mastery, Dongfang Liang would definitely be unhappy that the Martial Artists Alliance had recruited such a person. Because everyone knew that Wenjian's school was the founder of matrices. Under normal circumstances, any matrices master would enter Wenjian's school, but now? Was all this a conspiracy of the Martial Artists Alliance? Of course, Lu Yun knew what Dongfang Liang was thinking. He sneered in his heart and said, "Brother Dongfang, you must be joking. I met this person by accident, and he joined the Martial Artists Alliance because of fate. I never thought that he would be a matrices master." Pfft. At this time, someone laughed, and everyone looked in the direction of the Sword Sect. The one who laughed was none other than the Sword Sect Master's daughter, Murong Yenner. As the most beautiful woman in Fire Beacon City, Murong Yenner's talent was even higher than Dongfang Shuo's. Moreover, Murong Yenner was a fearless person. Otherwise, she wouldn't dare to laugh in front of the three sections. "Yenner, how dare you?" "Dad, I can't help it." "You're too shameless." Everyone knew who Murong Yenner was scolding. Lu Yun and Dongfang Liang's expressions were extremely ugly, but Murong Guinao was sitting there, so they could only swallow their anger. The Sword Sect, the Martial Artists Alliance, and the Wenjian School jointly controlled Fire Beacon City. The Sword Sect was among the 10 sections. Although its strength was at the bottom, its strength was still there. Unless one had nothing better to do, no one was willing to provoke the Sword Sect. Shut up. Murong Guinao really didn't know what to do with his daughter. P.S. Xiao Jiu has added more chapters. Why didn't anyone vote? Even the free recommendation votes were pitifully few. When Xiao Jiu is motivated, why don't everyone give her some support? Chapter 843. 3 hours later. Dongfang Shuo had successfully arranged the Burning Eight Desolation Array. If it was an ordinary challenge, Wenjian's school wouldn't care at all. But no matter what, Longao was still the Deputy Hall Master of the Martial Artists Alliance. Wenjian's school would more or less give some face to the Martial Artists Alliance. "Black Wolf, the array has been successfully arranged. Please." Longao opened his eyes and stood up. Looking at the white light in front of him, his heart thumped. Although he didn't step into the array, Longao could clearly feel that the array set up by Dongfang Shuo this time would be very powerful. Someone had just told him the name of the array, the Burning Eight Desolation Array. "Black Wolf, if you want to break the array, remember the direction." At this time, Longao suddenly heard a female voice. He was very curious because he didn't seem to have any friends in Fire Beacon City, let alone a woman. Who was it? All of a sudden, Longao looked in the direction of the Sword Sect. There, a beautiful girl was nodding at him. Without a doubt, Longao had already guessed that the person who had just reminded him of the method to break the array was this person. Murong Yenner, the #1 beauty in Fire Beacon City. She was talented and beautiful. Longao was very curious. He didn't know why this person reminded him. It seemed that he didn't know anyone in the sword sect. Black Wolf, I hope you can walk out of here. F*ck cursing in his heart, Longao didn't continue to hesitate. He directly entered the entrance of the array. In an instant, his figure disappeared without a trace. Everyone was looking forward to it. Although they knew that this person would definitely lose, many people still hoped that he could come out alive. Because the array of Wanjan schools seemed to be unbreakable, even if the Wanjan school in Fire Beacon City was just a branch. Inside the Incineration 8 Desolation array, within the dazzling white space, Longao was extremely cautious. He was extremely alert because Murong Yenner had just reminded him that if he wanted to break the Incineration 8 Wastelands formation, the most important thing was the location. East, south, west, and north. 8 desolates? Could it be that Bahuang was referring to the 8 directions? If not for Murong Yenner's reminder, it would not have been easy for Longao to break the array. However, the situation now was different. In addition to Murong Yenner's reminder, Longao was not unfamiliar with the Burning 8 Desolation array. This was because the Burning 8 Desolation array that Master Fentian had given him included the Burning 8 Desolation array. However, the array laid out by Dongfang Shuo was worlds apart from the Burning 8 Desolation array and the Burning Heaven array. Since he already knew how to break the formation, Longao did not hold back. This time, Longao originally only wanted to challenge the Wanjan School's array master. However, on the way here, Lu Yun had told him some things about the Wanjan School, including the sect origin swords. According to Lu Yun, the Wanjan School's sect origin swords was very powerful. Although it was only a small version of the sect origin swords, no one could break it. Moreover, the real Wanjan School's sect origin swords was known as one of the most powerful arrays in the world. When 10,000 swords were unleashed together, it could destroy heaven and earth. The 10,000 swords array formation was the biggest reason why the sword sect and the 10,000 swords array formation had always been at odds with each other. It was because everyone knew that the sword sect prioritized the sword. They had once wanted to pay any price to obtain the 10,000 swords array formation, but in the end? Without a doubt, the Wanjan School did not agree to the sword sect's request. Regarding this matter, the sword sect had always been brooding. It was precisely because of this that Longao was looking forward to the sect origin swords. Although he knew that it was very dangerous, he still wanted to try. Perhaps this was because he was an array master. Sect origin swords. Longao began to look for the eye of the array. He directly started from the 8 directions, east, south, west, and north. After searching for a while, as expected, the way to break the formation was indeed in the 8 directions. Burning to desolation. What a great burning to desolation! Longao did not hesitate and immediately started to act. It was still the same sentence. If it was an ordinary array master, even if they knew that the key to breaking the formation was in the 8 directions, it would not be easy to break the formation. However, Longao was different. Because in the Burning Heaven array arts, there was a method to set up the burning to desolation and break the formation. Regarding this point, perhaps no one in Wanjan's school would have thought of it. Longao even suspected that his master, Fentian, was very likely to be a member of Wanjan's school. Otherwise, how could the array in the Burning Heaven array arts include the Burning to Desolation array? Longao could completely assert that the array in Wanjan's school, even if it was a small array, would not be casually leaked, let alone such an important array. If his master was really a member of Wanjan's school, then this matter was indeed a bit tricky. Longao did not continue to worry about whether his master was a member of Wanjan's school. He knew very well that if he wanted to see the legendary sect origin swords, then he had to first solve the Burning to Desolation array. According to the Burning Heaven array arts, the most important point to break the Burning to Desolation array was to attack the suppression in 8 directions at the same time. Longao stood quietly in the Burning to Desolation array. Outside the array. It had been a few minutes since Longao entered. According to Dongfang Shuo's guess, Longao could hold on for an hour at most. It was almost impossible for him to come out alive, Brother Lu, why don't we make a bet? Lu Yun was very curious. He did not know what Dongfang Liang was going to bet at this time. Brother Lu, it's very simple. Let's bet how long Black Wolf can hold on in the burning to desolation array. I bet an hour. What do you think? Okay. Since things had come to this point, Lu Yun had no other choice. After all, he also hoped that Black Wolf could win. Again, if Black Wolf really won this battle, not only himself, but even the Martial Artists Alliance would feel proud, especially when they defeated Wanzhan's school in the array. Brother Lu, since you have agreed, then let's do it this way. If you win, in the life and death world 10 days later, one of the Wanzhan school's spots will be given to the Martial Artists Alliance. This year, the Martial Artists Alliance can send 4 people to the life and death world. What do you think? No problem. If I lose, the Martial Artists Alliance will only send 2 people to the life and death world this year. As for the time I bet on Black Wolf, it will be an hour. Although Lu Yun hoped that Black Wolf could win, he knew his own limits. He knew very well what the burning to desolation array set up by Dongfang Shou meant. As for the spots in the life and death world, neither the Martial Artists Alliance nor the Wanzhan School cared much about it. The reason was very simple. Although many people knew that there was the so-called divine inheritance in the life and death world, no one could find the so-called divine inheritance in the life and death world after so many years. Even their superiors had chosen to give up. Therefore, it did not matter whether there was one more spot or one less spot. At this moment, the burning to desolation array suddenly exploded. Chapter 844. Boom. There was a loud noise. The whole incineration array exploded completely. Everyone looked at it in a daze, not knowing what had happened. Impossible, this is impossible. Dongfang Shou was the most shocked one, because he had great confidence in the array he had set up. Not to mention an outsider, even a master of array from Wanzhan's school would find it difficult to break the array he had set up. How on earth did Black Wolf do it? Looking at Longao's figure gradually appearing, someone in the crowd exclaimed. From the beginning to the end, no one had thought that Black Wolf could break the incineration array. What's more, it had been less than 5 minutes since Black Wolf entered the array. What did it mean to break the array in 5 minutes? Everyone was scared out of their wits. Even the people from the 3 forces were a little stunned, not knowing how Black Wolf did it. Swallowing hard, Lu Yun was overjoyed. He'd never thought that He Lang would actually be able to break out of the formation. What was laughable was that they'd been betting on how long He Lang would be able to last in the formation. Black Wolf, you cheated. Hearing Dongfang Shou's words, everyone sighed. Most of them were disdainful and contemptuous. The other party broke the array, but he said that the other party cheated. With such a character, it was obvious that he would be despised by others. Come back. Dad. Come back. Dongfang Liang's face was very gloomy, because he knew very well what his son was thinking. If it went on like this, not only his son's face, but also the sect's face would be completely ruined. He Lang, you've won this battle. When saying this, Dongfang Liang wanted to go up and kill Black Wolf directly. Especially when he saw Lu Yun's face twitching with laughter, Dongfang Liang was more and more sure that this matter had absolutely nothing to do with the Martial Artists Alliance. What a good Lu Yun, what a good martial arts alliance. Dongfang Liang didn't fly into a rage at once, because he knew clearly that once he made trouble in his own territory, the Wanzhan school would be completely disgraced. As for the Martial Artists Alliance, there would be plenty of time to get back at them in the future. Thank you. Can I see the 10,000 swords return to origin now? After successfully breaking out of the formation, Longao was looking forward to seeing the legendary 10,000 swords return to origin. Originally, he did not think about his master, but because of the Burning 8 Desolation Array, Longao suddenly had a guess, a bold guess, and that was whether or not his so-called master, Fentian, was someone from Wanzhan's school. If master was really someone from Wanzhan's school, then if the Burning Heaven Array was a formation martial technique from Wanzhan's school, wouldn't that mean that the 10,000 swords returned to origin might also be in the burning heaven array? But obviously, now was not the time. Longao had already thought about entering the 10,000 swords returned to origin formation and see if there was the so-called 10,000 swords returned to origin formation in the burning heaven array. But one had to know that within the burning heavens array art, there were over 10,000 arrays. Even with Longao's current array attainments, he could at most flip through a few tens of them. It could be imagined how strong the burning heavens array art was. Because of this, it was still unknown whether there was the so-called 10,000 swords returned to origin formation in the burning heaven array. At this moment, Longao also thought of his master's traitor Yi Wuxuang. He had tricked Yi Wuxuang last time, so he didn't know where Yi Wuxuang was now. But Longao was very clear about one thing, that was, he and Yi Wuxuang were destined to fight. This fight. Not only was it to clean up the mess for his master, but it also represented his own personal grudge. Black Wolf, according to our previous battle agreement, although you have broken the Burning 8 Desolation formation, you are not considered to have won. Now, please set up the formation. Dongfang Shaw will break through the formation. If he can break out of the formation, then it will be considered a draw. Then, you will have to compete again. Everyone seemed to have forgotten that Black Wolf also had to set up the formation. After all, setting up the formation and breaking the formation were two different concepts. With Longao's previous example, many people were looking forward to whether the formation set up by this mysterious person was powerful or not. Master Dongfang, I don't think it's necessary. Why? Because the formation I set up seems to be very difficult for young Master Dongfang to come out alive. What if something happens? Longao did not continue speaking, but the meaning in his words was very clear. Arrogant, too arrogant. Everyone was secretly shocked because no one thought that Black Wolf was so arrogant that he did not take Wanzhan's schools seriously at all. Ha ha ha, Black Wolf, you are too arrogant. Hearing Longao's words, Dongfang Shuo looked up to the sky and laughed crazily. His laughter was full of confidence and contempt because he had never seen such an arrogant person. Not to mention Black Wolf, even Lu Yun, the Hall Master of the Martial Artists Alliance, did not dare to be so presumptuous. Black Wolf, if I can't break out of the formation, I can promise you one thing, no matter what it is. Really? A gentleman keeps his word. Hearing his son's words, Dongfang Liang was shocked because the more Longao behaved like this, the more uncertain he was, especially when this person just broke the Burning 8 Desolation formation. Was this person's attainment in the formation really so powerful? If Dongfang Shuo really lost, what should he do? But things had already come to this point, so he couldn't say anything more. He could only acquiesce. But at this moment, Dongfang Liang was extremely angry. In addition to Black Wolf, he hated the Martial Artists Alliance and Lu Yun more. Because in his opinion, everything that happened today was caused by the Martial Artists Alliance and Lu Yun. If he didn't take revenge, he was not a man. Black Wolf, I'd like to see how powerful the formation you arranged is. Longao smiled and immediately began to arrange the formation. The formation he chose was none other than the one that Dongfang Shuo had just arranged, the so-called Burning 8 Desolation formation. Except for the people of Wanzhan's school, no one present knew about the formation. Because of this, Dongfang Liang and Dongfang Shuo's faces gradually became gloomy and shocked when they saw the formation arranged by Black Wolf. They looked at each other and saw a trace of shock in each other's eyes. They really couldn't figure out why Black Wolf didn't know about the Burning 8 Desolation formation. At this moment, they finally knew why Black Wolf could break out of the formation so easily. It turned out that this person knew about the Burning 8 Desolation formation. The more so, the more curious they were about Black Wolf's true identity. The reason was simple. The Burning 8 Desolation formation was the formation of Wanzhan's school, and no one was allowed to spread it. In this case, how did Black Wolf know how to arrange this formation? Murong Yena looked at the young man who had been arranging and suddenly said, "The formation arranged by Black Wolf is exactly the same as the one that Dongfang Shuo just arranged." P.S. The 5th chapter has been delivered. Go to the supermarket and buy something. The remaining 5 chapters will be updated in the evening. Chapter 845. Even Murong Yener, who didn't use the formation, found that something was wrong. As everyone knew, the formation of Wenjian's school would not be taught to outsiders. In that case, how could Black Wolf arrange the advanced formation of Wenjian's school? What on earth happened? Father! Waving his hand, Dongfang Liang's face was extremely gloomy. He said, "Let's talk about this later. No matter who wins or loses this battle, this person must not leave here." Of course, Dongfang Shuo knew clearly what his father meant. It took Dongfang Shuo a full 6 hours to arrange the same Burning 8 Desolation array, but Longao only took 2 hours. Who was higher and who was lower in the array formation could be seen at a glance. "Young Master Dongfang, please." Humph! Things had come to this point. Even if Dongfang Shuo was unwilling, as the young master of Wenjian's school, he had to save the face of himself and the sect. The moment Dongfang Shuo stepped into the formation, everyone held their breath. At this moment, everyone was looking forward to the formation arranged by Black Wolf to trap Dongfang Shuo. Longao was very confident. He came to Lu Fei, of course, in front of everyone, and suddenly said, "Fortunately, I didn't disappoint you." "Fortunately, I didn't disappoint you?" What did that mean? Hearing Longao's words, everyone began to guess. They didn't know what Black Wolf meant. Was it a conspiracy played by Black Wolf and the Martial Artists Alliance? Dongfang Liang's face became gloomier and gloomier. He snorted. Although he didn't speak, the murderous aura emitted from his body, as if it was real, shrouded all the people around. A cold shiver ran down his spine. Murong Yener smiled and whispered in Murong Guina's ear, "Father, it seems that Black Wolf and the Martial Artists Alliance deliberately set Wenjian's school up. There should be a good show to watch." Murong Guina smiled. The 3 superpowers in Fire Beacon City had been fighting openly and secretly. The Sword Sect couldn't wait for the Martial Artists Alliance and Wenjian's school to fight. It would be best if both sides suffered, then the Sword Sect could take advantage of the situation. "Yener, don't talk nonsense, understand?" Nodding, Murong Yener looked at Black Wolf not far away. She seemed to be very interested. A cunning smile. Hearing Longao's words, Lu Fei was moved. How could Lu Fei not know what Longao meant? However, in this kind of situation, it was not good for him to flare up. However, he said very unhappily, "Hey Lang, you better pray that you can smoothly pass the 10,000 swords return to origin." Without waiting for Longao to speak, Lu Fei continued, "Oh right, I almost forgot to tell you, if you really have the chance to enter the 10,000 swords return to sect, I hope you can remember one sentence: you deserve to die." Longao smiled and didn't get angry. "Black Wolf, are you interested in joining my Wenjian school?" Dongfang Liang chose to ignore Lu Yun and the Martial Artists Alliance. Under normal circumstances, Dongfang Liang would never do this. But the Martial Artists Alliance was unkind first, so they shouldn't blame him for being unkind. "Brother Dongfang, what do you mean?" Dongfang Liang's intention was very clear. He wanted to poach Lu Yun. He didn't give any face to the Martial Artists Alliance. To be more serious, he was seriously provoking the Martial Artists Alliance. Even if they couldn't bear it, they couldn't bear it. "Brother Lu, you just said that this has nothing to do with the Martial Artists Alliance. Can I assume that Black Wolf has nothing to do with the Martial Artists Alliance? If so, why can't I invite Black Wolf to join the Wenjian school?" Dongfang Liang didn't want to do this, but the Martial Artists Alliance was so shameless. So, he was ready to give them a taste of their own medicine. Of course, Lu Yun knew what Dongfang Liang meant. Lu Yun was extremely angry. He said coldly, "Brother Dongfang, you know that Black Wolf is the Deputy Hall Master of the Martial Artists Alliance. But you still want to twist words. Don't you take the Martial Artists Alliance seriously? Brother Lu, you must be joking." Dong Liang obviously didn't want to talk nonsense with Lu Yun. Because things had come to this point, there would be trouble later. In this case, he might as well take the opportunity to win over a talent. Master Dongfang, Hall Master Lu just said that I am the Deputy Hall Master of the Martial Artists Alliance. So, I appreciate your kindness. Dongfang Liang was not surprised by Longao's rejection. As for Lu Yun, he breathed a long sigh of relief. If Black Wolf really left the Martial Artists Alliance and joined the Wanjian School, the sect would be completely disgraced. How could he explain it to his superiors? Dongfang Liang didn't continue to invite Black Wolf because of his refusal. 2 hours later, Dongfang Sha entered the formation and still didn't come out. It was obvious what had happened. Everyone knew that even if Dongfang Sha could break out of the formation, he had already lost. Anyway, it only took Black Wolf 5 minutes to break out of the formation. He sighed deeply. Dongfang Liang knew very well that since he had lost the battle, there was no need to continue to waste time. Black Wolf's attainment in formations was obvious. Dongfang Liang had no choice but to say, "Black Wolf, you win this battle." Black Wolf won, and Wanjian School lost. Everyone was surprised by the result, but the fact was in front of them. Longao nodded. Since Dongfang Liang had admitted defeat, there was no need for him to keep pestering him. He removed the formation and Dongfang Sha's figure appeared. In just 2 hours, Dongfang Sha seemed to have changed into a different person. "Hey Lang, you've won this battle." Dongfang Sha repeated his father's words, but he was obviously not reconciled. But it was a real shame if he refused to admit defeat after losing. One had to know that He Lang had used a high-level formation from the 10,000 formation sect to defeat him. That was the greatest humiliation. Lu Yun was extremely excited because from the beginning to the end, he didn't expect that Black Wolf could really defeat Dongfang Sha. Black Wolf's victory also meant that the Martial Artists Alliance suppressed Wanjian School. After all, Black Wolf was the Deputy Hall Master of the Martial Artists Alliance. This would never change. Longao wasn't happy at all about defeating Dongfang Sha because he knew very well that there were at least 3 people in Wanjian School who could defeat Dongfang Sha. What's more, Wanjian School in Fire Beacon City was just a branch. One could imagine how powerful the headquarters of Wanjian School was. Longao didn't continue to dwell on this issue because he had defeated Dongfang Sha. According to his agreement with Wanjian School, he could challenge the sect returning swords formation. Longao was looking forward to this formation and couldn't wait to enter it. Chapter 846. The Million Ancestral Swords Formation. Before Longao could say anything, Dongfang Liang said, "Since you want to challenge the Million Ancestral Swords Formation, I'll fulfill your wish." Everyone was looking forward to it. Because everyone had seen Black Wolf's attainment in formations and even defeated Dongfang Sha, everyone was looking forward to seeing whether Black Wolf could break the Million Ancestral Swords Formation. It was still unknown whether Black Wolf could break the Million Ancestral Swords Formation. But what made everyone speechless was that Dongfang Liang took Black Wolf away from the front mountain, and there were very few people watching the battle. Apart from the 3 people from the Martial Artists Alliance, there were 3 people from the Sword Sect. That was to say, apart from the people from the Wanjian School, only 6 people were allowed to watch the battle. In addition to Lu Yun and Lu Fei, there was a protector in the Martial Artists Alliance. As for the Sword Sect, there was Master Murong Guina and Murong Yener, who were also protectors. Outside a huge valley, Dongfang Liang showed a cruel smile and said indifferently, "Black Wolf, the Million Ancestral Swords Formation is in the valley. But I have to remind you that the formation has no eyes. If anything happens to it, the Wanjian School will not be responsible." Lu Yun didn't say anything, but just looked at Longao. After all, things had come to this point. Even if he was the Hall Master of the Martial Artists Alliance, he couldn't change Black Wolf's decision. This battle was full of danger. If he relaxed a little, he would be doomed eternally. Longao didn't even think about it. He nodded and said, I'll come out. Without talking to anyone, Longao directly entered the valley. In the blink of an eye, he had disappeared without a trace. Brother Lu, if Black Wolf can really make it out alive, I will do my best to invite him to join Wanzhan's school. Dongfang Liang had said that he didn't take the martial artists' alliance seriously twice. Lu Yun's face darkened. After all, Dongfang Liang's intention was obvious. If he didn't respond, it would tell everyone that the martial artists' alliance was afraid of Wanzhan's school. He snorted coldly. Lu Yun sneered and said, Brother Dongfang, don't play with fire. The martial artists' alliance is not to be trifled with. Morongena, who had been silent all this while, looked at the two people who were at daggers drawn. He said, You two, let me wait and see if Black Wolf can come out alive. The two of them stared at each other. It was obvious that the martial artists' alliance and Wanzhan's school wanted to kill each other this time. If it weren't for the fact that they cared about each other, they would have already started fighting. Looking at the disappearing Black Wolf, Murong Yenna's eyes began to darken. In the valley. It was the so-called Million Ancestral Swords formation. As soon as he stepped into the valley, Longao found a secluded place and prepared to practice the so-called formation, especially the way to break it, in the Burning Sky formation. However, Longao didn't have the slightest chance, because the moment he stepped into the valley, the Million Ancestral Swords formation was officially activated. In the dark valley, waves of gloomy and cold air rushed to his face. Even with his cultivation, Longao couldn't help shivering. In an instant, the whole valley lit up. Longao sighed secretly and looked around vigilantly. After all, according to Lu Yun, the Million Ancestral Swords formation was one of the most powerful formations in Wanzhan's school. Rumble, rumble. At this moment, the whole valley began to tremble as if someone was moving the whole valley. Longao immediately channeled the strength in his body and forced his body to stay still. After a few minutes, the whole valley fell into silence again. Looking at the empty valley, Longao was very curious. He wondered what kind of formation the Million Ancestral Swords formation was. If you want to start the Million Ancestral Swords formation, you have to smash the stone door first. A voice suddenly sounded in his mind. Before Longao could figure out what was going on, a stone door appeared in front of him. Smash the stone door? Since that was the case, Longao did not have the slightest bit of courtesy. His right arm smashed out fiercely. Longao was full of confidence. With the power of the divine dragon arm, it should not be difficult to smash open the stone door. When his fist landed on the stone door, Longao didn't expect that the stone door didn't even budge. It was as if he had hit a ball of cotton. He was delighted. Longao raised his eyebrows. Of course, he would not give up just like that. He took a step forward. This time, Longao not only used the divine dragon arm, he even used the hell tiger arm. Both of his arms fiercely smashed out and directly smashed on the stone door. A strong impact sound was heard. Just when Longao thought that the stone door would be smashed open, a shocking scene happened. A strong impact sound was accompanied by a terrifying wave, and the turbulent counterattack returned. Before Longao could figure it out, his whole body flew out. If he was not prepared, he believed that he would have died by now. What the hell happened? Enduring the pain in his body, Longao coughed twice and a trace of blood flowed out of the corner of his mouth. What a terrifying force. He was a little scared. Longao stared at the stone door in front of him. He finally knew the power of the Million Ancestral Swords formation. Just the stone door that opened the formation was already so powerful. One could imagine how powerful the Million Ancestral Swords formation was. Gravity space? Suddenly, Longao seemed to have sensed something. Cold light shot out from his eyes. Longao never thought that the force that shot out from the stone door would be the gravity space. Others might not know what the gravity space was, but it was impossible for him not to know. Cultivating the earth elemental art of the 5 elements heaven swallowing art directly produced the gravity space. Of course, Longao knew the power of the gravity space very well. It was because of this that he didn't expect that one day he would be attacked by the gravity space. With a firm gaze, Longao stood up from the ground. So what if it was the gravity space? Since it was the gravity space, he would use gravity to control gravity. Longao's method was very simple. He would use the Earth Elemental Art's gravity space to see if his gravity space or the stone door's gravity space was stronger. Earth Elemental Art. While running the Earth Elemental Art, Longao gathered all the strength in his body on his fists. Then, Longao roared and smashed directly at the stone door. His fists not only used the strength of the two little guys, but also turned this strength into the gravity space. Not only that, in order to successfully smash the stone door, Longao just smashed out 2 punches and continued to smash, punch after punch, punch after punch. In the blink of an eye, he had smashed hundreds of punches, and every punch was the integration of the gravity space. The power of such strength could be imagined. Boom, 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 the whole stone door began to shake and slowly break. Outside the valley, hearing the rumbling sound coming from the valley, both Dongfang Liang and Lu Yun were shocked because everyone knew what this sound meant. Black Wolf had smashed the stone door and officially entered the Million Ancestral Swords formation. Chapter 847. Dad, Black Wolf really broke down the stone door. Dongfang Liang didn't say anything because he didn't expect that Black Wolf would really break down the stone door. In fact, under normal circumstances, the formation of sect-returning swords didn't have a stone door. When the Wanjian school set up the formation, they set up a special test, which was to break down the stone door to enter the formation. But for so many years, no one had ever been able to break down the stone door. That was to say, no matter who wanted to enter the formation, they had to bypass the stone door directly. Since Black Wolf could break down the stone door, it showed his strength. At least his talent couldn't be underestimated. I must invite this person to join the Wanjian school. He's really a genius in formations. Hearing this, Lu Yun was shocked. He didn't expect that Dongfang Liang would think so highly of Black Wolf. That was how cheap people were. When he had it, he didn't cherish it and always wanted to get rid of Black Wolf. But now the Wanjian school wanted to draw Black Wolf to their side, and Lu Yun didn't want to. But Lu Yun was not a fool. Of course, he wouldn't choose to confront them head-on at this time. Anyway, Black Wolf was now the Deputy Hall Chief of the Martial Artists Alliance. As long as this identity was not removed, Black Wolf couldn't join the Wanjian school. No one said anything. Everyone knew that Black Wolf just broke down the stone door and didn't officially enter the formation. According to the power of the sect-returning swords formation, it was still unknown whether Black Wolf could break out of the formation. In the valley, Longao broke the stone door with a punch. The moment the stone door disappeared, the valley around Longao also disappeared. Then Longao came to a boundless space. The entire space was empty. There was nothing except for the whistling of the strong wind. Longao didn't dare to be careless. Because he knew that the stone door was broken, he had officially entered the sect-returning swords formation. That was to say, he would be attacked at any time. All of a sudden. Suddenly, countless sword chi appeared in the surroundings and attacked in the same direction, Longao's direction. Sword chi rampaged. The entire space began to slowly become wild and violent. The aura of sword chi swept through the entire space. There was sword chi everywhere. In other words, no matter where you stood in the space, you would be attacked by sword chi. This was the power of the 10,000 ancestral swords formation. Longao was very clear that at this moment, the 10,000 swords returned to origin formation had officially been activated. The entire space was flooded by countless sword chi. The whistling sound of the sword chi rang out continuously like thunder and lightning. It was terrifying. He didn't dare to be careless. At this time, if he let his guard down, he would be pierced by countless sword chi and die a tragic death. Longao took out his blood-sucking wild saber and immediately started slashing wildly. Countless saber lights formed an aura barrier around his body. Longao even forgot how many times he had slashed out. Around Longao, the blood-red saber light enveloped him. Countless sword chi, regardless of the situation, still fiercely collided with the saber light chi shield. The sword chi and the saber light chi shield produced an ear-piercing sound of collision. Not good. Just when Longao thought that his saber light chi shield could withstand the sword chi attack, a shocking scene happened. Because the saber light chi shield couldn't withstand the sword chi attack at all. The sword chi directly attacked his body. In just a few seconds, Longao's body was covered in wounds. He was slashed countless times by the sword chi. He was shocked. What a terrifying sword chi. He had to admit that the power of the 10,000 swords returned to origin formation was indeed terrifying. At this moment, Longao couldn't attack at all. He could only choose to defend. Fortunately, he had the desolate divine body. Otherwise, he would have been crushed by the countless sword chi. Longao was surrounded by countless sword chi. Each sword chi could seriously injure him, or even kill him. Longao could only respond with his saber light. The blood-red saber light was particularly dazzling in the sword chi space. The sword chi was extremely terrifying. Longao waved the blood-sucking blade to the extreme. His entire body was soaked in sweat and blood. Even his beard seemed to be a little difficult. Master, I have a way to suppress the god-slaying sword. You can slowly fuse with it. When you completely fuse with the god-slaying sword, I will break the seal and the god-slaying sword will become one with you. Longao, who was resisting the countless sword chi with all his strength, suddenly heard Long Fu's words. He was overjoyed because he knew very well what the god-slaying sword meant. Long Fu, what should I do? Longao obviously knew what Long Fu meant. Long Fu's meaning was very simple. He would first seal the god-slaying sword and then fuse with it. When he completely fused with it, he would break the seal and be able to truly control the god-slaying sword. With the power of the god-slaying sword, once he controlled it, he would be able to kill enemies above his level. Just thinking about it made him excited. However, what made Longao suspicious was that since Long Fu had a way to seal the power of the god-slaying sword, why didn't he seal it earlier so that he could fuse with it earlier? Why did he wait until now? Why did he choose to do it now? What a pain in the ass. Master, if you want to seal the power of the god-slaying sword, you have to borrow the sword chi here and activate the origin energy in your body. Otherwise, you won't be able to do it. I see. Longao finally understood why Long Fu didn't seal the god-slaying sword earlier. It turned out that he wanted to borrow the sword chi here, and the origin energy in his body. Long Fu, if you borrow the origin energy in my body, wouldn't I be unable to sense the origin energy in the future? Master, I've already considered this point. The origin energy that you've absorbed isn't suitable for you at all. Rather than that, why don't you seal the god-slaying sword? When you reach the peak of martial arts, you can find the origin energy that suits you. Wouldn't that be better? Longao thought about it, and felt that Long Fu's words made sense. Since the origin energy wasn't suitable for him, why waste time? After all, when he reached the peak of martial arts, once he defeated the heavenly axiom and found the origin energy that suits him, he would be the real winner. Since that was the case, Longao naturally wouldn't refuse. Next, Long Fu explained to Longao in detail what to do. Longao nodded repeatedly. A few minutes later, Longao stopped defending and kept the bloodthirsty broadsword. At this moment, countless sword chi swarmed in from all directions. However, Longao looked on indifferently because Long Fu had already forcefully pulled the god-slaying sword out of the blood pool. Just as the god-slaying sword was about to leave, the god-slaying sword appeared in Longao's hand. Longao didn't hesitate and immediately swung the god-slaying sword. However, the power of the god-slaying sword was too terrifying. With Longao's current injured body, he couldn't control the god-slaying sword at all. In other words, if Longao forcefully used the god-slaying sword, it was very likely that he would be devoured by the god's slaying sword and become its puppet, Jianling. P.S. The 8th update has been delivered. Little 9 will work overtime to write the next 2 chapters. Brothers who can wait, please wait. Little 9 will try to be as fast as possible. I hope everyone has votes to vote for me. If you don't have votes, please tip me. Little 9 will not refuse anyone. Chapter 848. It was too powerful. The power of the god-killing sword was really strong. The sword chi emitted by the god-killing sword alone made the sword chi around dare not get close. Longao was not happy at all. Instead, he was very serious because he did not know whether he would be devoured by the god-killing sword or not. Long Fu. At this time, Long Fu suddenly communicated with Longao's Dantian and integrated all the origin energy he had absorbed into the god-killing sword. The sword chi roared like a dragon. The god-slaying sword that had fused with the origin energy unleashed an overwhelming sword chi, causing the entire sword chi space to tremble violently. Outside the valley, the whole Wenjian school began to shake. Everyone was shocked and did not know what had happened. Dad? Dongfang Liang waved his hand and said helplessly, "This boy is not simple. No matter what happens, we have to recruit him. It's unbelievable." Now that things had come to this point, Dongfang Liang knew very well that the sect now had only 2 choices. The first option was to kill He Lang and eliminate him completely. However, would the Martial Arts Alliance agree to that? Moreover, with He Lang's own strength and attainments in formations, it would definitely not be an easy task to kill this person. The second choice was to recruit this person into Wanjian School and make Black Wolf one of their own. Dongfang Liang finally chose the second choice. He had decided that no matter what happened, he had to recruit this person. In the sword chi space, countless sword chi around knelt down at the same time. Yes, they knelt down. Longao had a feeling that the sword chi emitted by the god-killing sword was like a king. As for the countless sword chi around, they were the subjects. The subjects knelt down to the king. The sword chi emitted by the god-killing sword seemed to tear the whole space apart. The sound of the sword chi resounded in the space. Longao was also incomparably shocked in his heart, because he had never thought that the god-killing sword that had fused with the power of the source would actually be so powerful and terrifying. Not only that, Longao gradually realized what Long Fu's true goal was. Because at this moment, the sword chi in the surroundings began to converge towards the god-killing sword. An endless stream of sword chi was absorbed by the god-killing sword. Longao even had a feeling that no matter who it was, as long as they dared to get close to it, they would instantly be reduced to dust by the sword chi. Such a scene, Longao had really never seen it before. "I wonder if I can succeed." Long Fu had already said that this time, they were going to use the sword chi and the power of origin to forcefully suppress the god-killing sword. As for whether they would succeed, even Long Fu was not completely confident, let alone him. "Master, the 10,000 ancestral swords formation is actually a powerful sword technique. You can comprehend it and evolve it into your own sword technique. At that time, its power will surprise you." Longao, who was waiting wholeheartedly for the god-slaying sword to be sealed, suddenly heard Long Fu's words and was pleasantly surprised. Longao indeed did not expect that the 10,000 ancestral swords formation was a sword technique. If he could really reproduce a sword technique, it would definitely bring him unimaginable benefits. "Master, take advantage of this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. I will let you feel the sword momentum first. With the sword momentum into the sword doctrine, the sword technique that you comprehend will definitely be much more powerful." Before Longao could react, he realized that the countless sword chi in the surroundings suddenly shot out a terrifying aura. The god-killing sword also shot out the same aura. Sword momentum. This was the so-called sword momentum. Although Longao still did not know what the sword force was, but since Long Fu said so, he knew. That was exactly the case. Longao did not hesitate at all and immediately began to comprehend it. Sword momentum was the aura that was condensed from sword chi. Once cultivated to the peak, it would be invincible and invincible. No matter who it was, they would not be able to block the attack of the sword momentum. This was sword momentum. Under normal circumstances, it was very difficult to comprehend sword momentum. Even if it was a supreme Tao warrior, if not for a great opportunity, they would not be able to comprehend sword momentum. Longao was very clear how important this opportunity was to him. So this is sword momentum. Gradually, Longao's face was full of smiles. Because of Long Fu's help, in addition to his own talent, he successfully entered sword momentum in a short period of time. In other words, looking at the current situation, Longao could definitely comprehend sword momentum. At that moment, the space was still filled with sword chi. However, all the sword chi in the surroundings were shooting in the same direction and entering the god-killing sword continuously. As for Longao, he continued to comprehend sword momentum. Gradually, Longao held the god-killing sword and began to dance slowly. In the beginning, the god-killing sword was controlling Longao. However, gradually, the power of the god-killing sword was sealed by the origin energy and sword chi. Longao began to control the god-killing sword. However, he was completely unaware of this. He was completely immersed in sword momentum enlightenment. Enlightenment was something that every martial artist yearned for even in their dreams. Enlightenment of sword momentum was something that every swordsman dreamed of. Momentum, condensed with oneself. Sword momentum, condensed with sword chi. Sword momentum, wherever the sword momentum points, the world will be destroyed. Only those who possess sword momentum can be considered a true swordsman. Only those who enter the path with sword can reach the peak. Unknowingly, Longao's mouth was already full of smiles. Longao had successfully comprehended sword momentum. Moreover, it was a sword momentum that belonged to him and was suitable for him. Regarding this, even Long Fu had never thought of this. This was the so-called opportunity, it could not be forced. Opening his eyes, Longao felt that something was wrong. It was as if he had become a different person. A swordsman should be invincible. Holding the god-killing sword, Longao moved. The violent sword chi seemed to have merged with him. His aura merged with the sword chi and turned into a cold light. Man and sword as one? Long Fu seemed to be a little shocked. This was because he had never thought that his master could achieve the state of man and sword as one. According to his calculations, it was already very good that his master could comprehend sword momentum. If he had not seen it with his own eyes, it would have been hard to believe. Long Fu was very excited. This was because he knew very well what it meant for his master to comprehend his own sword momentum and become one with sword as one. 10,000 swords returned to sect. Using the momentum of 10,000 swords to trigger the supreme sword momentum. Longao's body moved faster and faster. The sword chi that shot out from the god-killing sword turned into rays of light that swept across the space. A shocking scene happened. The sword chi that Longao shot out seemed to be able to devour any sword chi. This was because no matter what kind of sword chi it was, as long as it came into contact with it, it would be devoured immediately. Longao and the god-killing sword could no longer be seen. One man and one sword constantly shuttling through space. Gradually, Longao's injuries began to heal quickly. This was something that Longao had never expected. Chapter 849. After an unknown period of time, Longao's figure finally stopped. Not only Longao, but even the countless sword chi around him also disappeared. The million ancestral swords array had been broken. Longao did not feel happy at all because he had broken the array. However, he was pleasantly surprised because he had comprehended the sword force, created the sword incantation, and was able to control the god-punishing sword. Although Longao knew that the god-punishing sword did not have the slightest bit of power now, he would be able to merge with the god-punishing sword one day, and reach the pinnacle of being one with the sword. Once the seal of the God-punishing sword was broken, he would be able to control the God-punishing sword. Master, congratulations on comprehending your own sword force and creating a new sword incantation. Longao smiled and said, I have to thank you for your help. Master, since you're the one who created this sword technique, you should give it a name. Name? Since I created this sword incantation with the help of the God-punishing sword, from now on, this sword incantation shall be called the God-punishing incantation. Looking at the space of sword chi in front of him, Longao's lips slowly curled into a cold smile. He broke out of the array. The God-punishing sword in Longao's hand slashed out without any warning. The entire space of sword chi started to shake. Following which, the space shattered and Longao stepped into it and disappeared. Longao had never thought that the comprehension of the sword force, the creation of the sword incantation and the control of the God-punishing sword would allow him to recover 50% of his injuries. Although he was still unable to fight with a martial artist in the illusionary divine stage, he would have no problem with a martial artist in the illusionary divine stage. In other words, at this moment, even if Longao met a world king or world emperor, he would be able to defeat them with the help of the God-punishing sword and the God-punishing incantation. Sword force. If outsiders knew that Longao had comprehended the sword force with the power of a holy emperor, it would cause an uproar in the mainland. Outside the valley. Seeing the young man walking out of the valley, everyone knew what had happened. The young man had broken out of the array. Helplessly shrugging, Dongfang Liang was unwilling to accept this, but the truth was in front of him. He had to accept it. Black Wolf, you have won this battle. Longao successfully broke out of the array. After this battle, Longao's name could be considered to have shaken the world. Although the 10,000 swords returned to origin was only a small-scale array, very few people had been able to break the array and leave after so many years. I was just lucky. Luck? Was it really a fluke? Dongfang Liang smiled and didn't seem to mind it. He said, Black Wolf, your attainments in array formation are the best among all the people I have ever seen. I can promise you that as long as you are willing to join my Wanzhan school, I will fully recommend you to enter the Wanzhan school. You should know that Wanzhan school is the cradle of array masters. Once you enter that place, your attainments in array formation will reach a higher level. Dongfang Liang, you? Waving his hand, Dongfang Liang said before Lu Yun could speak. It's none of your business. You'd better shut up. I will slowly settle this with you in the future. Dongfang Liang was extremely angry because he believed that today's incident was the doing of the Martial Artists Alliance and Lu Yun. He just didn't fly into a rage for the sake of his reputation. Lu Yun also knew this, and his face was extremely gloomy. He said, Dongfang Liang, let me be frank. If you insist on doing this, the Martial Artists Alliance will never let you go. Looking at the three people who turned around and left, Dongfang Liang snorted coldly. Obviously, he didn't take them seriously. After all, things had come to this point. It was better to be hostile now than later. Brother Dongfang, I will leave first. Seeing Dongfang Liang nod, Murong Guina shrugged helplessly and turned to leave. But before Murong Yena left, she smiled meaningfully, which made Longao confused. He didn't know what was wrong with this girl. Could it be that Murong Yena was interested in him? Black Wolf, now that Lu Yun and others have all left, why don't we get straight to the point? What do you think of my proposal? It would be a lie to say that Dongfang Liang's proposal was not tempting. As Dongfang Liang said, in the Tianwu continent, only the Wanzhan school was the cradle of array masters. As long as one was an array master, he believed that all array masters wanted to enter the Wanzhan school and become a member of the Wanzhan school. Master Dongfang, I appreciate your kindness. But I joined the Martial Artists Alliance because I have something important to do. I can promise you that as long as I finish this, I will come back. After a deep look, Dongfang Liang finally nodded and didn't say anything more. Longao didn't stay any longer and turned to leave. Looking at the gradually disappearing figure, Dongfang Shua said fiercely, Father, this person doesn't know what's good for him. If we let the tiger return to the mountain, there will be endless troubles in the future. Then we will lose more than we gain. Nodding, Dongfang Liang said in a cold voice. This person is too unpredictable. Since you don't want to be a member of the Wanjian school, then you can go to hell. After thinking for a while, Dongfang Liang continued. I have received news that Black Wolf is among the candidates sent by Lu Yun to the life and death realm this time. Dongfang Liang didn't continue, but the meaning in his words was very clear. Dongfang Shi nodded and said, Father, don't worry. This time I will also enter the life and death realm. At that time, I will definitely bring this person's head back to see you. Dongfang Liang was very confident in his son's strength. But when he thought of his son's attainment in Array Masters, he was a little worried. This person's attainment in Array Masters is very strong. Even I don't have full confidence to defeat him. So, after you enter the life and death realm, you must be careful. Don't fight with Array Masters, understand? Dongfang Shi knew what his father meant, but he was still very arrogant. Although he had just been defeated by Longao, in his heart, he didn't take this person seriously from the beginning to the end. Leaving the Wanjian school, the news that Longao successfully broke the array had spread throughout Fire Beacon City. In other words, from this moment on, Longao had become a celebrity in Fire Beacon City. After all, not everyone had the courage to challenge the Wanjian school and win. Seeing Black Wolf appear, Lu Yun was overjoyed. He didn't ask much, because the appearance of Black Wolf had already shown his attitude. Hall Master, I will come in 10 days. Good, have a good rest. We will meet in 10 days. Big brother. Waving his hand, Lu Yun said before Lu Fei could speak. This person's identity is very suspicious, but this kind of talent is exactly what we need. With such attainment in Array Masters, I believe that even Dongfang Liang is not as good as him. He really gave me a big surprise. P.S. I will not update tomorrow morning, I will sleep in. I will start writing tomorrow afternoon. Don't rush me. Again, please vote. Little 9 thanks. Little 9 will also work hard. Chapter 850. Longao didn't follow him back to Fire Beacon City. Outside Fire Beacon City. As soon as he left Fire Beacon City, Longao's lips curled into a cold smile. He quickened his steps, but didn't use spatial teleportation. A few minutes later, Longao abruptly stopped and turned around with a smile. Since you've been following me for so long, why don't you show yourself? Longao was no longer the same as before. After comprehending Sword Aura and wielding the Godslayer sword, he'd recovered half of his injuries. Using spatial teleportation for a short period of time wasn't a problem. Murong Yenna's figure appeared with a chuckle. You're truly a miraculous person. Black Wolf, I want to know your true identity. Not simple. For some reason, Longao felt that this woman wasn't simple. However, Murong Yenna had warned him just now. Whether or not it was useful, he was still very grateful. Thank you for your warning. I only want to know your true identity. Looking at Murong Yenna, Longao suddenly said, I don't know if you're a friend or foe. Upon hearing this, Murong Yenna smiled. If we're enemies, I wouldn't have warned you just now. Black Wolf, no matter who you are, I'll keep it a secret. How about it? Staring fixedly at Murong Yenna, Longao finally nodded and said, Longao. Just 2 words, but Longao was very clear that if Murong Yenna's identity really wasn't simple, then even if he only said the 2 words, Longao, Murong Yenna would know what was going on. As expected, Murong Yenna was not surprised at all. She smiled and said, As expected, you really do have a great background. I've already said that I won't reveal your identity. But now, I really want to test your strength. I want to see if you're as powerful as the rumors say. At this moment, a powerful aura suddenly erupted from Murong Yenna's body. Sensing this aura, Longao's expression changed slightly. He hadn't expected Murong Yenna to be a saint sovereign. A holy venerate was definitely the strongest expert in Fire Beacon City. It would be more than enough for them to sweep through the other two factions. Because of this, Longao couldn't understand why a saint sovereign would appear in a small city like Fire Beacon City. It seemed that his guess was right. This woman's identity wasn't simple. Longao also wanted to test her true strength. Saint Sovereign. Longao's expression was somewhat solemn because he might have been able to fight against a Saint Venerable if he was in his peak condition. However, his injuries had only recovered by 50% at the moment. Not to mention a Saint Venerable, even a semi-sage or a Saint Venerable would probably be corroded by his injuries if he used his full strength. So powerful. Longao was startled by Murong Yenna's words. He didn't dare to be careless. He nodded but still said, "You don't have to worry about this. I will take care of it. I hope you will use your full strength later." Murong Yenna didn't say anything. She only smiled as a tacit agreement. Just like that, the two of them stared at each other. Meanwhile, Murong Yenna took out a sharp sword out of nowhere. One could tell that it was a good sword at first glance. People from the sword sect were usually experts in using the sword, let alone Murong Yenna. Longao also took out his god-punishing sword. It had already been sealed, so it couldn't be discovered. Otherwise, Longao wouldn't have taken it out so casually. "Please. Please." The two of them stared at each other. In an instant, the two of them moved. Murong Yenna was full of confidence in this battle. As a peerless genius of the sword sect, she had already reached a high level in sword Dao. In an instant, the two of them fiercely fought. Ended quickly. Longao's injuries had only recovered by 50%. At this moment, he was using all his strength. If he was careless, his injuries would worsen. He might even be devoured by the blood pool. Therefore, the only way was to end it quickly. End it as quickly as possible and minimize the losses. Sword force. Longao had just fought, and in less than 3 moves from start to finish, he directly used sword force. As the power that swordsmen yearned for even in their dreams, Murong Yenna was stunned for a moment when she sensed the powerful sword aura emanating from her opponent's body. Sword force? Murong Yenna exclaimed. She had never imagined that her opponent would be able to use sword force. Just what was going on? Sword force. Murong Yenna knew very well what it meant for a cultivator to possess sword force. After all, sword force was something that every swordsman dreamed of obtaining. However, sword force was dependent on luck. It wasn't something that everyone could comprehend. It was also because of this that Murong Yenna was very shocked. However, the more it was so, the more excited Murong Yenna was. No matter what, it was rare for a swordsman to possess sword force. God-punishing technique. Longao didn't waste any time. Under normal circumstances, it was almost impossible for a Saint Emperor to defeat a Saint Venerable. Moreover, it was Murong Yenna. The god-punishing sword in Longao's hand danced at an unbelievable speed. Soon after, countless sword chi appeared around Longao. It was like a myriad of swords returning to their roots. Countless sword chi shot toward Murong Yenna like a meteor shower. They didn't miss a single spot. Sword chi crisscrossed the sky and penetrated the earth. This was the terror of sword chi. If it was just sword chi, Murong Yenna wouldn't care about it. However, the sword chi that Longao shot out with the help of the god-punishing sword was abnormally terrifying. Even Murong Yenna was forced to retreat step by step. A Saint Venerable was forced to retreat by a Saint Emperor. Even if news of this spread, no one would believe it. Longao knew very well that controlling his strength to not injure Murong Yenna was just too difficult. After all, the god-punishing sword and the god-punishing technique worked together seamlessly. Without any other choice, Longao could only use the earth elemental technique, which was the so-called gravitational space. Not only that, Longao directly used spatial teleportation and disappeared from where he was. Before Murong Yenna could figure out what had happened, Longao had already appeared behind her. The gravitational space ruthlessly suppressed her. The combination of the gravitational space and countless sword chi directly suppressed Murong Yener. Putting aside Longao, Murong Yener already knew who had won this battle. There was no point in continuing. Longao, stop! I've lost this battle. Murong Yener felt a deep sense of helplessness when she said those words. As a genius disciple of the Sword Sect, not to mention the Sword Sect of Fire Beacon City, even if it was the Sword Sect of a higher level, or even the Sword Sect of a higher level, his innate talent would be unmatched by anyone. P.S. The first chapter has arrived. It's a bit late. Little Nine will immediately work harder. Even if he doesn't sleep tonight, he will finish the 10 chapters. Don't worry, if you have tickets, please send a few. Chapter 851. Longao didn't kill her. This time, it was just a spar. Otherwise, even if he could kill Murong Yener, he would suffer from the backlash of his injuries. Longao knew very well that Murong Yener didn't use her full strength. But no matter what, Longao won this battle, and Murong Yener lost. If she lost to someone else, Murong Yener might feel unsatisfied. But losing to Longao, Murong Yener didn't seem to be unsatisfied at all. Murong Yener knew very well what it meant for Longao to have sword force. Sword force. No one in the entire Fire Beacon City Sword Sect could have sword force. I was just lucky. Longao, you don't have to be humble. I want to ask you a question, and I hope you can answer honestly. Needless to say, Longao knew what Murong Yener wanted to ask him. Longao, I really want to know how you managed to condense such a sword force. Every swordsman wanted to comprehend sword force. The reason was simple. Longao didn't answer immediately. He lowered his head and thought for a while, then said, To be honest, I don't know how I condensed sword force. Murong Yener was very curious because she didn't understand what Longao was talking about. Could it be that he didn't want to tell her? After all, how could she not know? Previously, when I was in the Valley of Wonjan School, I encountered the so-called 10,000 swords. I kept blocking them, and unknowingly I entered a very magical world, a world about swords. Longao didn't hide anything, but he had deleted the part about the god-punishing sword. No matter what, the god-punishing sword was very important. If it was leaked, he would be in big trouble. Longao was almost certain that the Clear Sky Sect didn't leak the information about the god-punishing sword. After all, the Clear Sky Sect knew better than him what the god-punishing sword meant. He believed that the Clear Sky Sect didn't want to burn themselves. Sudden enlightenment? Seeing that Longao did not speak, Murong Yener became more and more convinced that what Longao had just said was a case of epiphany. It would be a lie to say that they were not envious. Murong Yener was very envious. After all, for a martial artist, sudden enlightenment was like a pie falling from the sky. She finally knew how Longao condensed his sword force. In the sword chi space, it would be strange if he didn't condense a sword force under the epiphany. Longao, do you know what sword force means? Shrugging helplessly, Longao said that he didn't know. He wasn't lying. He really didn't know the true concept of sword force. But he did know one thing, and that was that sword force was very important to a swordsman. At the very least, the power of sword force shocked even him. Sword force is praised by swordsmen as having supreme might. According to the legends, only when a swordsman has comprehended his own sword force would he be able to use the sword to enter the Tao and reach a supreme realm. So that was it. Longao didn't speak. He just stood there and listened quietly. You can say that among swordsmen of the same level, those who have sword force are almost invincible, and there are even winners. Swordsmen who have sword force can kill enemies of a higher level. However, sword force isn't that easy to comprehend and condense. It's 1 in a million. So you're really lucky, but you're also very talented. Regarding the might of the sword force, needless to say, Longao naturally knew it clearly. As for the sword force that Murong Yener mentioned, he didn't know much about it. However, Longao was very clear that his cultivation hadn't reached that realm yet. So what if he knew? Because of this, Longao didn't continue to dwell on this issue. Anyway, it was already lucky that he was able to comprehend sword force and reproduce sword techniques in the Million Swords formation. As for other things, Longao didn't dare to think too much. Longao, are you going to participate in the life and death world in 10 days? Nodding, Longao didn't hide this at all, because the matter of the life and death world was known to everyone. As for his quota, he believed that it had already been spread. In that case, there was no need for him to do anything unnecessary. Longao, with all due respect, you'd better not participate in the life and death world. In fact, whether the inheritance of the divine path in the life and death world really exists is still unknown. Why should you waste your time on an illusory thing? What do you say? Longao was very curious. He didn't know what Murong Yener meant. Wanjan's School, Martial Artists Alliance. After Murong Yener finished talking about these two schools, she turned and left. In the blink of an eye, she had disappeared without a trace. Wanjan's School? Martial Artists Alliance? Longao was not a fool. Of course, he knew what Murong Yener's reminder meant. It seemed that the Martial Artists Alliance and Wanjan's School wanted to get rid of him in the life and death world. So what? Knowing that there was a tiger in the mountain, he still wanted to go there. Longao's character was like this. Although he knew that there were dangers in the life and death world, he still decided to go there. This was not because he wanted the so-called inheritance of the divine path. Longao's biggest reason was that he wanted to train himself, because only through continuous training could his strength improve rapidly. If it was before, Longao would be more or less afraid. But now, Longao was extremely confident. As long as it was not an illusionary divine martial artist or an emperor martial artist, he would be able to deal with them. Just his sword force and the god-punishing sword alone would be able to help him defend against any danger. Moreover, Longao had to go to the life and death world for Yuan. Lu Yun had already said that as long as he could find the so-called inheritance of the divine path in the life and death world, he would have the opportunity to go to the higher level of the Martial Artists Alliance. At that time, he would have the opportunity to see Yuan, the lover that he had missed for many years. No matter who was willing, he had to go to the life and death world. Longao returned to the peak of the mountain and quietly felt the sword force that he had just condensed. According to Long Fu, the sword force that he felt was a sword force that had integrated the aura of the deity's slaying sword. Once the deity's slaying sword was released in the future, the power of the sword force would instantly increase by 100 times. What kind of concept was this? For this trip to Wanjan's school and challenging the Million Ancestral Swords array, Longao had seen the real array. Because of this, Longao had decided that after solving the problem with Yuan, he must go to the real Wanjan's school and see what the real Million Ancestral Swords array was like. At that time, he might be able to have another epiphany. Master, why don't you take advantage of these 10 days to help me suppress the blood pool? What do you mean? Longao was very curious. After all, Long Fu had already said before that the dragon seal had already suppressed the blood pool. Unless the dragon seal completely disappeared, the blood pool would definitely not see the light of day again. Since that was the case, why was there still a need to suppress it? Was the blood pool going to break out of the seal? Master, the combination of the deity's slaying sword and the blood pool has caused the blood pool to become restless again. I'm afraid that the blood pool will waver. Chapter 852. So that's how it was. Long Fu, how do you need me to help you? Longao naturally wouldn't hesitate in the slightest, because he clearly knew that if something happened to the dragon seal, he would be in big trouble. Moreover, after so many years of being together, he was already used to the existence of the dragon seal and Long Fu. Master, it's very simple to strengthen the seal. You just need to continuously absorb energy. This way, I can borrow the dragon seal to forcefully continue sealing the blood pool. Longao didn't say anything. So, Master, I need your help to find more energy for me. After thinking for a while, Long Fu continued, I've been sensing for the past few days. Not long ago, I sensed a place where origin energy appeared. Origin energy? Hearing Long Fu's words, Longao was shocked, because he clearly knew what origin energy meant. According to Long Fu, on this continent, the heavenly Tao and the divine mathematician were existences that had truly stepped onto the peak of the martial path. The divine mathematician didn't seem to care about worldly affairs, which meant that there was only one person that could truly come into contact with origin energy, and that was the heavenly Tao. If the heavenly Tao didn't agree, how could he obtain origin energy? Could he return to the outer sea? Longao was almost certain that as long as he headed to the outer sea, he would definitely be discovered by the heavenly Tao. No one was a fool, let alone the heavenly Tao. Without needing Longao to ask, Long Fu already knew what he was thinking. Master, although the heavenly Tao is the #1 expert of the continent and controls origin energy, it's impossible for it to control all of it. I've already carefully sensed it. This origin energy is automatically sealed by the world's energy. I believe that even the heavenly Tao hasn't discovered this place. So that's how it was. Long Fu, where is it? Just like this, Longao followed Long Fu's instructions and shot towards the origin energy. The Sword Sect, one of the 3 major forces of Fire Beacon City. Without a doubt, everyone in the Sword Sect used swords, which meant that they used the sword as their martial path. According to the legends, the Sword Sect was one of the 10 great sects, and they had supreme experts in the way of the sword. They could enter the way with the sword, shatter the void, and become an invincible expert. One could imagine how powerful experts in the way of the sword were. The Sword Sect in Fire Beacon City was only one of the branches of the Sword Sect. Sword Sect Mountain. From afar, the mountain peaks looked like a sharp sword piercing through the 9 heavens. It was a spectacular sight. The Sword Sect had a strict hierarchy. No matter who it was, as long as they were not disciples of the Sword Sect, they were not allowed to step within a 100-meter radius of the Sword Sect. Otherwise, no matter who it was, once discovered, they would be killed without mercy. Longao stood in front of the Sword Sect and stared at the mountain range in front of him. At this moment, Longao finally knew where Long Fu was talking about. If he was at his peak, he would not be worried about the Sword Sect at all. After all, the strongest person in the Sword Sect in Fire Beacon City was only a holy venerable. The rest might not even be illusionary divine experts. However, he had not recovered from his injuries. If he battled too frequently, it would not be good for his body. However, no matter what happened, Longao would not reject Long Fu. Therefore, Longao did not say anything. He had already decided that even if it was a mountain of swords and a sea of fire, he would still charge in to help Long Fu obtain the origin source and suppress the blood pool. Master, you must be careful. Although there are no experts in the Sword Sect, there is a Jianling. Jianling? Longao did not know what the Jianling that Long Fu was talking about was. Master, there are countless divine artifacts in the universe, but above them all, there is a type of overgod artifact. This type of overgod artifact is incomparably powerful, because every single overgod artifact has its own artifact spirit within it. Longao did not speak. He really did not know what a weapon spirit was. However, he could feel that the weapon spirit that Long Fu was talking about was extremely powerful. Long Fu, you are also a weapon spirit? Longao would be a fool if he still could not guess. It was also because of this that Longao was even more shocked. He had personally witnessed how powerful Long Fu was. If that was the case, wouldn't the Jianling in the Sword Sect be even more powerful? Master, since you have already guessed it, I will not hide it anymore. That's right, I am indeed a weapon spirit. Long Fu, tell me honestly. Are there many weapon spirits in this mainland? No more than 5. No more than 5? For some reason, Longao heaved a sigh of relief. After all, weapon spirits were too powerful. If there were 70, 80, or even 100 of them, wouldn't this mainland be ruled by weapon spirits? Master, I know what you want to ask. The weapon spirits of the blood pool and God's slaying sword were already killed in the battle with the dragon's seal. Otherwise, how could the blood pool be sealed? So that was the case. But this matter is not over. Although the weapon spirit was destroyed, the blood pool still retained a trace of its power. If this trace of power were to escape, the consequences would be unimaginable. Especially if the weapon spirit of the blood pool is reborn, even the heavenly Tao would not be able to stop it. Hearing this, Longao was shocked. He had never imagined that the weapon spirit of the blood pool would be so powerful. It did not even fear the heavenly Tao. Fortunately, the weapon spirit of the blood pool had been destroyed by the dragon's seal. As long as the remaining power was sealed properly, and did not escape, everything would be fine. Long Fu, how powerful is the Jianling of the Sword Sect? Very weak, very weak. What was going on? Longao was somewhat suspicious. The Sword Sect was only a branch of the entire Sword Sect. How could such an existence have such a powerful existence like the Jianling? However, Longao did not ask. He believed that Long Fu would not know either. Long Fu, what do you mean? Nodding, Long Fu smiled mysteriously and said, Master, if it's an ordinary artifact spirit, I don't recommend you to deal with it. After all, it's almost impossible for you to have two artifact spirits at the same time. Long Fu thought for a moment before continuing. But Master, this Jianling is clearly heavily injured and sealed by the power of the world. If you can obtain this Jianling and forcefully seal it in the God-slaying sword, then the power of the God-slaying sword will be even more terrifying in the future. So it was this. Longao finally understood Long Fu's meaning. If that was the case, then no matter what, he had to obtain this Jianling and seal it in the God-slaying sword. As Long Fu said, if it was an ordinary weapon spirit, he would not even think about it. He only needed to look at Long Fu's strength to know. However, the sword sect's Jianling was heavily injured. If he could obtain it, then it would definitely be a good thing for him. Long Fu, do you want me to help you deal with the origin energy first, or do you want me to deal with this Jianling first? Longao knew very well that he could not sense either the origin energy or the Jianling. P.S. The 3rd chapter has been delivered. Don't rush me. Even if I don't sleep tonight, Little 9 will deliver all 10 chapters. Chapter 853. In the end, Long Fu chose the origin energy. No matter what, the blood pool was the most important thing. Back then, the dragon seal had erased and sealed the blood pool's artifact spirit. If the blood pool broke out of the seal and the artifact spirit reappeared in the world, it would not be worth it. Longao did not immediately head to the sword sect. The sky gradually darkened. In the pitch-black night, there were only a few frogs croaking. Longao's figure instantly disappeared into the night. Just as he was about to enter the sword sect, Longao's figure suddenly disappeared. With spatial teleportation, he was completely confident that no one would be able to discover his tracks. In the sword sect. According to Long Fu's instructions, Longao directly entered the bottom of the mountain. In an inconspicuous small cave, he found the so-called origin energy. The origin energy that Long Fu mentioned was not much. But according to Long Fu, this origin energy was enough to suppress the blood pool. Master, the Jianling is next to you. Longao, who was about to get up and leave, jumped in fright. Because the entire cave was empty. Not to mention the Jianling, there was not even a single strand of hair. Longao asked curiously, Where is it? Long Fu looked towards the southeast. Longao followed his gaze. He did not know if he did not look, but when he did, he jumped in fright. At some point, a faintly discernible ball of light had suddenly appeared in the southeast. Without Long Fu saying anything, Longao had already guessed what the ball of light was. If he was not wrong, it should be the so-called Jianling. It would be a lie to say that he was not excited. But Longao did not act rashly, because this was his first time coming into contact with Jianling. Long Fu was not included, so he did not know the power of the Jianling. Even if he was seriously injured, the legend of Jianling was still there. Long Fu, what should I do now? Master, this Jianling is not aggressive at all. You can do whatever you want, but you must seal her in the God Slayer's sword. Otherwise, she will escape at any time. Upon hearing this, Longao heaved a sigh of relief. Since that's the case, I won't hold back. Longao stepped forward, took a deep breath, and slowly walked towards the white ball of light. After a short while, he arrived in front of the white ball of light. My luck is really not bad. Under such circumstances, I can still obtain a Jianling. God's slaying sword, please. I hope you can let me fuse with it soon. When the time comes, we can conquer the world together. Longao was very excited. After all, Long Fu had made the artifact spirit sound so mysterious. It would be a lie to say that he didn't want to obtain it. Young master, please let me go. Longao, who was about to make a move, suddenly heard a sound coming from inside the cave and was shocked. A human or a ghost? Come out. There was no response. Longao shrugged helplessly. Did he hear wrongly? No matter what, it was more important to do business. Just as Long Fu said, if the Jianling escaped, he would regret it to death. Young master, please let me go. F***ck. He cursed in his heart. Longao was also a little angry. He did not care about the sword spirit. He began to look around to see who was playing tricks. But after looking around, no one appeared. Was he hallucinating? Young master, I'm here. Looking at the white ball of light in front of him, Longao's eyes were as wide as a bull's. He was in disbelief. Are you the one talking? Yes, young master. Longao swallowed his saliva fiercely. Although he had already guessed that the sword spirit would definitely speak, he was still a little shocked when he actually encountered this matter. However, after a short shock, Longao finally calmed down. Young master, please let me go. A female voice. Longao was not stupid. Of course, he could tell that the Jianling was a woman. This was troublesome. Although there were only 2 people in his heart, it was not nice to kill a woman like this. Master, she's just a Jianling. Longao, who was a little soft-hearted, heard Long Fu's reminder. Yes, no matter who the other party was, it was still a Jianling. It had nothing to do with him. Sorry, as long as you obediently enter the sword in my hand, I'll let you go. How about it? Young master. At this time, the white ball of light disappeared. Just as Longao was about to make a move, a white figure appeared. Looking at the beautiful girl in front of him, Longao was completely dumbfounded. Because he had seen beautiful girls before, but he had never seen such a beauty. She was a rare existence in the world. A peerless beauty. The white-clothed girl's skin was whiter than snow. Her eyes were like clear water. She was extremely beautiful, like a bright pearl. Between her eyebrows, there was a scholarly aura. All of a sudden, Longao thought of a poem. The clouds think of her clothes, the flowers think of her face. The spring breeze brushed the railings. If they did not meet on top of the Jade Mountain, they would meet under the moon in the Jade Pavilion. It was simply to describe the beautiful girl in front of him. The white-clothed girl's voice was extremely pleasant to listen to. It was like the chirping of an oriole. Longao was very clear that normal men could not resist the beauty of the white-clothed girl. However, Longao was only stunned. As for possessing her, Longao did not even think about it. If other people knew about it, they would definitely not think about it. Which cat did not steal fish? You are a Jianling? If Long Fu was not so sure, Longao would not believe that the beautiful girl in front of him was a Jianling. But it was still the same sentence. If he let go of such a rare opportunity, even he would despise himself. I'm sorry, I cannot agree to your request. But if you cooperate obediently, I can guarantee that you will not be hurt. The white-clothed girl was very gentle, as if she was made of water. After thinking for a while, she whispered, Young master, I know what you want to do. Even if I am sealed in your sword, not only will you not gain any benefits, you will also be in a lot of trouble. If he did not know that the white-clothed girl was a Jianling, such a gentle girl, he really could not bear to lay his hands on her. The trouble is my problem. It has nothing to do with you. You should come in. She extended the God-Slayer sword. The white-clothed girl seemed to know what was going on. She sighed softly and did not say anything else. She turned into a ball of white light and disappeared without a trace. Longao already knew that the white-clothed girl had entered the God-Slayer sword. In other words, from now on, there was a Jianling in the God-Slayer sword. Once the seal on the God-Slayer sword was broken, the power of the God-Slayer sword would instantly increase by several times. Under normal circumstances, Longao should be happy that there was a Jianling in the God-Slayer sword. But what was the result? Longao was not happy or excited at all. He did not know why, but he had a feeling that something was about to happen. As for what it was, he could not figure it out. Chapter 854. His expression was solemn. Master, what's wrong? Facing Long Fu, Longao did not hide anything from Longao. After thinking for a while, Longao said helplessly, I don't know why, but I keep feeling like something is going to happen. Before Longao could finish, Long Fu's anxious voice sounded. Master, hurry up and leave this place. I never thought that there would be a second Jianling here. A second Jianling? Master, the second Jianling's strength is not below mine. Just this sentence alone made Longao jump in fright. Of course, he knew what Long Fu meant. Longao did not dare to stay any longer. Although he had not seen Long Fu's strength, he was sure that Long Fu was very strong. Long Fu had just said that this Jianling's strength was not below his. Just thinking about it, this Jianling's strength was terrifying. However, it was all too late. Before Longao could leave the cave, a woman appeared at the entrance. She was about 25 or 26 years old. She was dressed in purple and looked very beautiful. She was not much different from the white-clothed woman from before. Let my sister go and I will spare your life. Looking at the purple-clothed girl in front of him, Longao obviously did not choose to believe her. If he let the white-clothed girl go, there was no doubt that the purple-clothed girl would not let him go. Who are you? The purple-clothed girl sneered and said, Don't pretend. If you didn't know my sister's identity, would you seal her in the sword? Since things had already reached this point, Longao naturally did not choose to continue talking nonsense. Teleporting, Longao's figure disappeared from the cave in the blink of an eye and appeared out of thin air. Looking at the empty cave and the other party who had long since disappeared, the purple-clothed girl's expression was extremely gloomy and unsightly. Bai Ling, no matter who it is, they can't take you away. The purple-clothed girl's entire body was abnormally cold. The murderous aura emanating from her body seemed to have materialized, directly enveloping the entire cave. In the next second, the purple-clothed girl's body also disappeared without a trace. After leaving the cave, Longao didn't dare to stay any longer. He shot towards the distance with all his might. However, at this moment, a figure blocked his path. This made Longao a little mad, but in the end, he forced himself to endure it. Murong Yenner, if you have anything to say, we can talk about it later. I have something important to do now, so please step aside. Murong Yenner's expression was very ugly. He said coldly, Longao, I see you as a friend, but you don't see me as a friend. What do you mean? Let me ask you. Why did you come to my sword sect in the middle of the night? Of course, Longao wouldn't tell Murong Yenner about the two Jianling. He was very worried because the purple-clothed girl's strength was obvious. If the purple-clothed girl chased after him, how could he resist? Murong Yenner, I can only tell you that I see you as a friend. In the past, in the present, and in the future, it will still be. If you don't want the sword sect to go down the path of destruction, you'd better not stop me. Murong Yenner wasn't an idiot. Of course, she could see some clues from Longao's expression. She was very curious, but in the end, Murong Yenner still stepped aside. Thank you? Longao didn't continue to hesitate. With spatial teleportation, his body disappeared without a trace. Looking at Longao, who had already disappeared, Murong Yenner was very surprised. From the beginning to the end, she could not understand Longao at all. Combining it with the information that she had received earlier, Murong Yenner seemed to have decided on something. She turned around and left. Not long after the two left, the purple-clothed girl's figure suddenly appeared. It was as if she had teleported. The purple-clothed girl didn't know how to teleport, but her speed was too fast. It was as if she had teleported. Coldly looking at him, the purple-clothed girl snorted. No matter where you go, don't think you can escape from my grasp. Longao left the sword sect as fast as he could. A few minutes later, he appeared at the peak of the mountain. Only now did he truly feel relieved. However, Longao was very clear that although he had temporarily shaken off the purple-clothed girl, he was still in danger at any time. Because no one knew if the purple-clothed girl would chase after him, or when she would chase after him. This time, he really failed miserably. Because from beginning to end, Longao never thought that he would not only encounter a white-clothed Jianling, but also a purple-clothed Jianling. If he didn't have spatial teleportation, he believed that he would have been killed by the purple-clothed girl. Long Fu had just said that the purple-clothed girl and the white-clothed girl were completely different. The sudden appearance of a purple-clothed girl was something that Long Fu probably didn't expect. Inside the dragon seal space. Long Fu, what happened? Why did another Jianling suddenly appear in the sword sect? Longao was very curious because he really couldn't understand. Even if there was a second Jianling in the sword sect, Long Fu should have been able to sense it. But what was the result? From beginning to end, Long Fu had only sensed the white-clothed Jianling. As for the purple-clothed Jianling, Long Fu didn't know at all. Helplessly shaking his head, Long Fu sighed and said, Master, I also didn't think that in this small sky martial continent there would be such an artifact spirit. If I was at my peak, I should have been able to sense the existence of this Jianling. But now... Long Fu didn't finish his words, but the meaning of his words was very clear. Longao had almost forgotten that Long Fu and the dragon seal had not recovered. But even so, Long Fu hadn't been able to sense the purple-clothed Jianling. That in itself showed just how powerful the purple-clothed Jianling was. Master, I just sensed that the purple-clothed Jianling is very powerful. But I'm a bit curious. These two Jianling don't have a true body, but they are able to exist on their own. Long Fu was very clear on what Longao was implying. Item spirits were artifact spirits born from overgod items. In other words, they were the soul of the entire overgod item. Under normal circumstances, it was impossible for them to exist on their own without a divine item. But now, both the purple-clothed girl and the white-clothed girl were existing on their own. As for the two Jianling's divine items, they didn't know. Long Fu, why are you sighing? Seeing Long Fu's sigh, Longao's heart thumped. That was because Long Fu rarely made such an expression. Was something really about to happen? Master, if my guess is correct, these two Jianling aren't ordinary artifact spirits. They are the most powerful overgod artifact spirits in the world. Furthermore, the reason why they don't have divine items is probably because, Long Fu, hurry up and tell me. Longao was very worried. After all, the purple-clothed Jianling would definitely chase after him. If he knew something about the purple-clothed Jianling, it would definitely be beneficial to him. Author's note: the remaining 5 chapters will be delivered in a bit. Brothers who can wait, please wait. Those who can't wait can go to sleep. Tomorrow, when you wake up, please wait. Chapter 855. Long Fu's expression was grave. As the omnipotent Long Fu, under normal circumstances, he wouldn't have such an expression. He sighed deeply. Long Fu finally said. Master, I really didn't think that the legendary artifact spirit devouring the original body really existed. Artifact spirit devouring the original body? Longao already knew what Long Fu meant. Let alone Long Fu, even Longao was shocked. Long Fu's meaning was very simple. Whether it was the white-clothed Jianling or the purple-clothed Jianling, they had already devoured their original divine artifacts and occupied the dominant position. If Long Fu hadn't said it himself, Longao wouldn't have believed that such a thing could happen. Master, this is big trouble. Long Fu didn't need to say anything. Longao naturally knew that they were in big trouble. If it was really as Long Fu said, that the purple-clothed Jianling and the white-clothed Jianling had already devoured his divine artifacts, then the purple-clothed and white-clothed Jianling's strength could be imagined. What should he do? In truth, Longao had a way to ensure that the purple-clothed Jianling wouldn't be able to find him. The only way was to enter the dragon seal space. Even if the purple-clothed Jianling's strength was thorough, it wouldn't be able to find him. Perhaps even the heavenly Tao couldn't do it. The heavenly Tao? Suddenly, Longao thought of the heavenly Tao. He immediately said, Long Fu, you just said that the purple-clothed Jianling and the white-clothed Jianling are so powerful. Even you aren't a match for the two Jianling. If that's the case, comparing the heavenly Tao and the purple-clothed Jianling, which one is stronger? According to Longao, in the entire martial sky continent, other than the divine mathematician, the heavenly Tao was the strongest. The oracle and the way of the heavens could be considered to have truly stepped onto the peak of martial arts. Master, I know what you mean. Since things have come to this, there are some things that I should let you know. His heart skipped a beat. It seemed that there were still many things that he did not know. It was true that the stronger one was, the further one could go, and the more one would know. On this continent, Master God Diviner is the #1 expert. Not even the Tao of Heaven can stand up to him. Longao already knew about this. You could say that the Tao of Heaven is the second person. Once the Tao of Heaven makes another breakthrough, not even Master God Diviner will be able to stand up to it. That's why Master God Diviner sought you out, my lord. He hoped that with your latent talent and potential, he could restrict the Tao of Heaven. Longao was well aware of that. Master God Diviner had made it sound like he was teaching him the Tao of divination, but the truth was that he wanted to use Longao to help him grow stronger. Eventually, he would be able to control the Tao of Heaven. Restricting each other was the safest option. As for those two Jianling, their overall power should not be as great as the heavens. However, once they refine their true bodies, they will surpass the heavens' Taos. So, Master, there are still many hidden experts on this continent. They just haven't shown themselves yet. Longao nodded. In the end, the strongest existences on the martial heaven continent were still Master God Diviner and the heavens' Taos. However, Long Fu had said that once the purple-robed Jianling and the white-robed Jianling refined their true bodies, their power would surpass the heavens' Taos. Since there were two Jianling, there could be others. It seemed that it really was as Long Fu had said. There were too many things he didn't know about the martial heaven continent. There were too many experts he didn't know about. Longao didn't continue asking. He knew that with his current power, even if he knew more, what could he do? Master, why don't you hide in the dragon seal space for now? That way, I'm confident that no matter how powerful the purple-robed Jianling is, they won't be able to find you. Long Fu had already thought of this method. Without the slightest hesitation, Longao said, Long Fu, I won't enter the dragon seal space. I'll deal with whatever comes my way. If there's no danger, how can I break through? Longao was very clear that if he was afraid of danger, he could directly enter the dragon seal space. At that time, he could hide for dozens of years. At the very least, he would be able to break through to the sovereign realm, or even the divine realm. However, Longao wouldn't make such a choice. The reason was very simple. First, he wouldn't sit and wait for death. Only with experience and danger would it be exciting. Second, his cultivation speed in the dragon seal space was too slow. Only under pressure would his cultivation speed rapidly increase. Long Fu naturally knew his master's character, so he wasn't surprised by this result. Since things had already reached this stage, Longao knew that he could only deal with whatever came his way. Leaving the dragon seal space. At the peak of the mountain. Longao stood alone at the peak of the mountain. No one knew what he was thinking. Young master. Hearing someone call him young master, Longao wasn't used to it. He had no choice but to take out the god-punishing sword and said, Miss, how about we do one thing? Young master, please speak. From now on, you don't have to call me young master. My name is Longao. You can just call me by my name. Longao was helpless because the white-clothed Jianling was really gentle. It was as if the white-clothed Jianling wouldn't get angry at all. It was always the same voice. Young Master Long, my name is Bai Ling. You can just call me Bai Ling in the future. She didn't call him young master anymore. Instead, she called him young master Long. Longao was helpless to the extreme. Before he could say anything, Bai Ling continued. Young Master Long, as long as you let me go, my sister won't look for you anymore. Did he really have to hand over Bai Ling? To be honest, Longao didn't have the heart. If it was an ordinary weapon spirit, he would definitely not hand it over. But Bai Ling was different. Such a gentle and kind Jianling. No man would be willing to part with her. Longao was still a man. Just as Longao was about to let Bai Ling go, a purple figure suddenly appeared. The purple figure was none other than the purple-clothed Jianling. Looking coldly at the young man in front of him, Xiling sneered and said, You really don't know what's good for you. How dare you take my sister away? Boy, do you not know how to write the word death? Longao didn't run away immediately. He knew very well that if he didn't solve this matter, he would be in big trouble. After all, the purple-clothed Jianling in front of him was very strong. He already had enough enemies. Unless it was a last resort, he really didn't want to provoke the purple-clothed Jianling. You're Xiling? So what if I am? Xiling was very confident. After all, as a weapon spirit that devoured the original body, she didn't care about ordinary warriors at all, let alone Longao's strength. In her eyes, Longao wasn't even an ant. There was a misunderstanding between us. Now I'll return your sister to you. From now on, we'll write off our grudges. How about that? P.S. I don't want to find excuses. There was a strong wind at 12:40 last night, and the electricity was cut off. Little Nine couldn't have gone to the internet cafe that late. If Little Nine didn't want to write, he would have said it directly. There was no need to find excuses, so please forgive him. Chapter 856. Longao didn't want to cause any trouble, especially when it came to a super existence like Xiling. In the end, Longao decided to let Bai Ling go. But at this moment, something extremely depressing happened. No matter what Longao did, Bai Ling couldn't get away from the God-Slayer sword because it didn't seem to listen to him at all. In an instant, Longao understood what was going on. If he wasn't wrong, the God-Slayer sword had finally sealed the Jianling after much difficulty. How could it let Bai Ling go so easily? This was going to be troublesome. Kid, you don't want to? Xiling's face turned cold as he looked at the young man in front of him. If it weren't for the fact that his sister was in his hands, Xiling would have attacked him already. Longao shrugged helplessly and sighed. I'm sorry, I have no choice. Longao was speaking the truth, but in Xiling's ears, the meaning changed completely. It became Longao's provocation. Provoking him? Humph, humph, humph. Xiling snorted 3 times in a row. His lips slowly curved into a cold smile. Good, very good, very good. No one has ever dared to provoke me. You're the first. When did he provoke him? Suddenly Xiling, who had not moved all this while, suddenly disappeared. This gave Longao a fright. He did not dare to stay any longer. His entire body disappeared without a trace. He did not even use teleportation and just disappeared into thin air. Eh? Surprised, Xiling's body suddenly appeared. Looking around at the empty night, Xiling's face turned ugly. She couldn't figure out how her opponent had done it. Xiling was very confident. Not to mention a mere Saint Emperor, even if the heavenly Tao personally descended, he wouldn't be able to avoid detection. The more he thought about it, the more he couldn't figure it out. Kid, no matter where you go, I'll tear you to pieces. When Xiling disappeared, Longao let out a long sigh of relief in the dragon seal space. What a terrifying aura. The aura released by Xiling just now was too terrifying. If it weren't for the help of the dragon seal space, he wouldn't have been able to block Xiling's attack with teleportation. In the dragon seal space, Longao sighed deeply because he did not know why the god-slaying sword wanted to trap Bai Ling. One should know that the god-slaying sword was already sealed. Long Fu, what just happened? Master, just as I said before, Bai Ling and Purple Spirit are both super weapon spirits that devoured the original body. The God-Slayer sword that we sealed seemed to have sensed Bai Ling's powerful existence, so Bai Ling was forcefully sealed by the God-Slayer sword. Then what should I do? After thinking about it, Long Fu shook his head helplessly. There's nothing I can do for now, Master, unless you can completely integrate with the God-Slayer sword. Once you can truly control the God-Slayer sword, you can let Bai Ling go. Otherwise, Long Fu didn't finish his words, but his meaning was clear. Longao was completely depressed. According to Long Fu, he couldn't let Bai Ling go in a short period of time. After all, it wasn't easy to truly control the God-Slayer sword. Moreover, the God-Slayer sword was sealed. If it was the previous God-Slayer sword, it would be wishful thinking to control it. Longao wasn't worried about the God-Slayer sword sealing Bai Ling, but he was afraid of Xiling. Now that the God-Slayer sword had forcefully sealed Bai Ling, it meant that from now on, Xiling would hunt him down endlessly. If he wasn't careful, he would die a horrible death. He was really unlucky. Of all the people he could provoke, he just had to provoke such a powerful God-Slayer sword. Long Fu seemed to understand his master's thoughts. He thought for a while and said, Master, you have to be careful. I just sensed Xiling's aura. This God-Slayer sword isn't simple. If I'm not wrong, her identity should be the same as mine. What identity? Master, the only thing you need to do now is to control the God-Slayer sword as fast as you can. That way, as long as you let Bai Ling go, I believe Xiling won't come looking for trouble. You don't want to talk about it. Longao sighed deeply. He knew Long Fu very well. If Long Fu didn't want to say anything, he believed that Long Fu wouldn't say anything no matter how much he asked. The more Long Fu was like this, the more Longao was curious about Xiling's identity. Long Fu's identity was even more curious. He didn't know why, but he always felt that Long Fu had a lot of secrets on him. Longao didn't continue to ask, nor did he continue to speak. The matter of Xiling had caused him a lot of trouble. Although Xiling wasn't as powerful as the Heavenly Tao, the sense of danger that Xiling gave him was far greater than the Heavenly Tao. No matter what, he was still a secret to the Heavenly Tao. From the beginning until now, the Heavenly Tao didn't know of his existence. But Xiling was different. What should he do? Longao didn't immediately go to the peak of the mountain. As the saying goes, the most dangerous place is the safest place. Even if you beat Xiling to death, he wouldn't think that he hadn't left the mountain. Longao sat quietly on the peak of the mountain, letting the cold wind blow. Young Master Long, you should let me go. Otherwise, my sister won't let you go. Hearing Bai Ling's words from the God-Slayer sword, Longao laughed bitterly. After a deep sigh, Longao said helplessly, Bai Ling, it's not that I don't want to let you go. Things have already come to this point. I won't hide anything from you. Longao couldn't bear to be cruel to Bai Ling, this Jianling. Even without Xiling, it seemed that he couldn't seal Bai Ling forever. Such a kind-hearted Jianling, let alone him, believed that many people couldn't bear to kill her. Bai Ling, the sword in my hand is called the God Slayer sword. I won't hide it from you. With my strength, I can't control the God Slayer sword. So, it's impossible for me to let you go. Hearing this, Bai Ling wasn't angry at all. Such a kind-hearted woman, whether it was a human or a Jianling, was indescribable. The more Bai Ling was like this, the more Longao blamed himself. It was as if he had done something wrong. For so many years, Longao had never regretted what he had done. But this time, he felt that he was wrong. If he had known that Bai Ling was so kind-hearted, he wouldn't have sealed Bai Ling, regardless of whether Xiling existed or not. But now that he had made a big mistake, it was too late to regret. Longao knew that the only thing he could do now was to control the God Slayer sword. Only then could he let Bai Ling go. God Slayer sword. Bai Ling exclaimed. Obviously, she knew about the existence of the God Slayer sword. She exclaimed, I really didn't expect that the sword in your hand is the legendary king of weapon spirits, the God Slayer sword. No wonder you can't control it. But the God Slayer sword doesn't seem to have any power? Chapter 857. The King of Weapon Spirits? Longao really didn't know that the God-slaying sword was the King of Weapon Spirits. Bai Ling, to tell you the truth, the God-slaying sword's power has been sealed by me. I see. Longao thought for a while and finally asked. Bai Ling, you know about the God-slaying sword? Is the God-slaying sword really the King of Weapon Spirits? Yes, the God-slaying sword dominated the world and was the king of all weapon spirits. Bai Ling, since the God-slaying sword is the king of weapon spirits, what about the blood pool? What blood pool? Hearing that Bai Ling didn't know about the blood pool, Longao was very curious. According to Long Fu, the God-slaying sword and the blood pool were actually one. Once the blood pool and the God-slaying sword combined, breaking the seal of the dragon seal would be a matter of minutes. When the God-slaying sword was inserted into the blood pool, the two didn't combine. The reason was simple. Whether it was the blood pool or the God-slaying sword, they were no longer in their peak state and couldn't break the seal of the dragon seal alone. Bai Ling, according to the information I received, the God-slaying sword and the blood pool are one. Before Longao could finish, Bai Ling said, Oh. The blood pool you speak of, I know what it is. You're right, the blood pool and the God-slaying sword are one, but they also reinforce and counteract each other. I heard from my sister that in the entire world, the only thing that can seal and destroy the blood pool is the God-slaying sword. F*** Longao cursed in his heart. He didn't expect the God-slaying sword and the blood pool to have such a relationship. Bai Ling, I'm sorry, but I'll try my best to control the God-slaying sword and let you go as soon as possible. Bai Ling didn't say anything. In the entire night sky, only Longao stood alone on the peak of the mountain. Longao did not ask Long Fu about the relationship between the blood pool and the God-slayer sword. It was still the same thing. Long Fu still had many secrets. If Long Fu did not want to tell him, it would be pointless for him to ask. Since that was the case, there was no point in asking. Within 10 days, Longao had almost never left the peak of the mountain. Apart from cultivating, he was comprehending the sword force. Although he had successfully condensed the sword force, he realized that the sword force could continue to grow. During these 10 days, Bai Ling did not speak again. Longao asked a few questions during this period, but the results were almost the same. 10 days later, inside the Martial Artists Alliance in Fire Beacon City. Black Wolf, you've succeeded in challenging Wanzhan's school this time. Therefore, out of the 10 places, our Martial Artists Alliance will take 4. In addition to you, Lu Fei, and 2 other protectors will go to the life and death realm together. Longao was not very concerned about this matter, as long as he was qualified to enter the life and death realm. Black Wolf, you've succeeded in your challenge this time and rejected Wanzhan's school. If there are no accidents, Wanjan's school will deal with you in the life and death realm. Therefore, you have to be very careful. Thank you, Hall Master. I'll be careful. Well, in that case, you can go now. Longao and Lu Fei left the Martial Artists Alliance with the two protectors and walked in the direction of the life and death realm. The life and death realm was discovered by the three superpowers in the past. Countless masters were sent there, but in the end, no divine path inheritance was found. Gradually, everyone did not believe that there was any divine path inheritance in the life and death realm. Therefore, the three superpowers in Fire Beacon City sent fewer and fewer martial artists to the life and death realm every year. This time, if it was not to deal with Longao, it was believed that Wanjan's school and sword sect would not send masters. On the surface it was calm, but the clouds were moving in the dark. Outside a nameless valley. It was surrounded by mountains. Looking in from the outside, the whole valley was surrounded by black fog, and it was impossible to see the situation in the valley. When Longao, Lu Fei, and the other three arrived at the valley, the 6 people from Wanjan's school and sword sect were all waiting. The 3 people from Wanjan's school were undoubtedly Dongfang Shi and the other 2. 2 of them were elders. Not only were their strength above Dongfang Shi, but their attainments in formations were also not comparable to Dongfang Shi. The Wanjan school's intention was very simple. They invited Longao to join, but Longao refused. In order to eliminate the root of the problem, Wanjan's school had decided to take advantage of the life and death realm to eradicate Black Wolf. Therefore, in addition to sending Dongfang Shi, they also sent 2 masters of formations. Longao was able to defeat Dongfang Shi and break the small 10,000 swords formation, which in itself showed Black Wolf's attainments in formations. It was precisely because of this that Wanjan's school directly invited the 2 masters of formations with the purpose of dealing with Longao, eliminating the root of the problem and eliminating future troubles. As for the sword sect, Murong Yener personally entered the life and death realm, and the other 2 masters were not seen before. Seeing the formation of the sword sect and Wanjan's school, Lu Fei felt extremely happy. Of course, he knew that Wanjan's school was going to deal with Longao. But Lu Fei was also a little worried. Wanjan's school and sword sect were so powerful. If he entered the life and death realm and the 2 forces turned against him, wouldn't he be a fish in the moat? But it should be known that the sword sect, Martial Artists Alliance, and Wanjan's school had always been fighting openly and secretly. Even if they took advantage of this opportunity to eliminate him, he believed that no one would know. Although he was a little worried, things had already reached this point. Lu Fei knew very well that it was too late to retreat. Black Wolf, you have to be careful. Longao nodded. How could he not know that Lu Fei was two-faced? However, Longao didn't want to talk nonsense with Lu Fei, because he knew very well that if he were in danger, the first person who wanted to kill him would be Lu Fei, not Dongfang Shi, and not Murong Yener. Longao, Wanjan's school invited 2 masters of formations this time. According to the information I heard, the 2 masters invited by Dongfang Liang this time have reached the Imperial Realm. Oh? Longao was very surprised because he knew what it meant to be an Imperial Array Master, and he was only a Venerable Array Master. There was a gap of 1 level. The levels of Array Masters were divided from low to high: Level 1 Array Master, Level 2 Array Master, Level 3 Array Master, Level 4 Array Master, Level 5 Array Master, Level 6 Array Master, Level 7 Array Master, Level 8 Array Master, Level 9 Array Master, King Array Master, Emperor Array Master, Venerable Array Master, Imperial Array Master, and Divine Array Master. The Divine Array Master was the real top Array Master. But below the Divine Array Master, the Imperial Array Master was the most powerful. Longao didn't expect that Wanjan's school would invite 2 Imperial Array Masters to deal with him. They really thought highly of him. Seeing Longao's smiling face, Murong Yener asked curiously, "Aren't you worried?" "Why should I be worried?" Very depressed, Murong Yener sighed and said, "You broke Wanjan's school's 10,000 swords formation before. I heard that Wanjan school attaches great importance to this matter. Otherwise, they wouldn't have sent 2 Imperial Array Masters to deal with you this time. So, you'd better be careful. Chapter 858. Got it. Longao really did not place the 2 of them in his eyes. If they were Saint Venerables or Holy Emperors, he might be afraid. As for Formation Masters, Longao was very confident in his attainments in array formation. Unless a God-level array formation master personally came, with his level of array formation, he could ignore an Emperor-level array formation master. Longao, don't take it lightly. Wanjan School sent 2 Emperor-level formation masters this time, which means that Wanjan School has begun to pay attention to you. So what? If nothing goes wrong, even if you can defeat them this time, Wanjan School will send more powerful people. Longao already knew what Murong Yena meant. It seemed that breaking Wanjan School's million ancestral swords formation had indeed brought him unnecessary trouble. Longao knew very well that in this case, his identity must not be exposed. Otherwise, Hades of the Martial Artists Alliance would not let him go once he knew. In addition to Hades, there was also the first elder of the Long family, Haotian sect, and Black Wind Valley. He had to be careful. Since Murong Yener had already said so much, there was no need for her to continue. At this time, the entrance of the life and death world suddenly opened. In the valley, black fog lingered. Suddenly, a stairway appeared in the valley, which looked extremely strange. Longao was very curious, but the others were obviously not surprised at all. They all looked very calm. The 3 forces had entered the life and death world countless times and had long been accustomed to it. Let's go. Nodding, the life and death world was already in front of him. Longao didn't hesitate at all and stepped into the valley with the others. In the blink of an eye, everyone had disappeared without a trace. Outside the valley, as soon as the 10 people disappeared, Dongfang Liang and Murong Guina suddenly appeared. Brother Dongfang, Wanjan School has really put in a lot of effort this time, sending 2 Emperor-level formation masters. If they are unlucky and die... Gloating. With a cold snort in his heart, Dongfang Liang said unhappily, "This is the order from above. I can't do anything about it. As for your sword sect, you sent 2 warriors at the Saint Emperor level this time. Do you also want to kill this person? Brother Dongfang, you and I have known each other for so many years. Although we serve different masters, we can still be considered old friends." Dongfang Liang smiled, because what Murong Guina said was right. If they didn't work for different masters, they would be best friends now, but fate made fools of them. Brother Murong, since you treat me as a friend, then let me ask you a question. Why did your sword sect send 2 Saint Emperors this time? Since things had come to this point, Murong Guina did not hide anything. Kill! It was a simple word. Dongfang Liang didn't continue to ask, because both of them knew very well that whether it was the sword sect or the Wanjan school, they all had the same purpose, which was to kill Black Wolf and eliminate the root of the problem. In the valley, step by step, everyone walked toward the dark valley in the distance. After a while, everyone had entered the valley. But for some reason, Longao always had a feeling that he was not in the valley at all. Without Longao asking, Murong Yener had already said, "We are not in the valley now. You can say that we are also in the valley." Longao was very curious. He didn't know what Murong Yener meant. Why were they in the valley and not in the valley? With a smile, Murong Yener continued, "We have entered the valley in the valley. You have to be careful. We have really entered the life and death world. Remember, there will be 2 paths later. You must choose the path of life. Once you choose the path of death, you will definitely die." In the life and death world, there were 2 paths to choose from: the path of life and the path of death. Without waiting for Longao to respond, 2 bridges appeared in front of them. There was a stone tablet on each side of the bridge. The stone tablet on the left had a path of life written on it, while the stone tablet on the right had a path of death written on it. They were exactly the two paths that Murong Yener had mentioned just now. Everyone was waiting at the bridge. Lu Fei's face was very ugly, because as long as one was not a fool, he could definitely guess that the sword sect and the Wanzhan school would definitely deal with Longao this time. Black Wolf, choose the path of life. Looking at the two paths of life and death, Longao did not immediately step into the path of life, which made Murong Yener very curious. Did he need to think about it? Black Wolf, you won't tell me that you will choose the path of death, will you? Murong Yener would never believe that Longao would choose the path of death instead of the path of life. If that was the case, wouldn't Longao's brain be flooded with water? Not to mention Murong Yener, even the others were looking forward to Longao's choice. After all, Longao was standing in the middle of the path of life and death. It was still unknown whether he would choose the path of life or the path of death. Murong Yener laughed. Longao looked at the path of life and the path of death on both sides, and finally chose the path of death. Seeing Longao directly walk toward the path of death on the right, everyone was shocked, especially Murong Yener, because from beginning to end, she never thought that Longao would really choose the path of death instead of the path of life. Black Wolf, you? Waving his hand, Longao did not look back, but said, I choose the path of death. Murong Yener stared at Longao. In the end, she also chose the path of death. After all, she regarded Longao as a friend, a true friend. Seeing that Murong Yener also chose the path of death, the two holy emperors of the sword sect certainly did not choose the path of life. In addition to protecting Murong Yener's life, they entered the life and death world this time to deal with Longao. The sword sect had already chosen the path of death, and Dongfang Shuo of the Wanzhan school had no doubt also chosen the path of death. As for the remaining members of the Martial Artists Alliance, Lu Fei sneered and said, A group of idiots. No one cares if you go to die. They choose the path of death, and we choose the power of life. I hope you can leave the life and death world alive. Lu Fei wished that everyone would die on the path of death. That way, the Martial Arts Alliance would be able to reap the benefits. In this way, except for the Martial Artists Alliance, the rest of the Sword Sect, the Wanzhan School, and Longao all chose the path of death, and the person who caused all of this was the so-called Longao. It could be said that Longao was now surrounded by enemies. Except for Murong Yener, everyone else wanted to kill him. In front of him was the Sword Sect, and behind him was the Wanzhan School. But even so, Longao still resolutely chose the path of death, even if he knew that there was danger ahead. There was a wolf in front of him, and a tiger behind him. If it were an ordinary person, they would have been scared out of their wits. Chapter 859. Longao had already guessed some things about the life and death world. The life and death world was rumored to have the divine path inheritance. But why had no one been able to find the divine path inheritance in the life and death world for so many years? And the three major forces had been entering the path of life for so many years, but had never entered the path of death. If the divine path inheritance could not be found in the path of life, then there was no doubt that if the divine path inheritance really existed in the life and death world, it must be in the path of death. In order to see Yuyin as soon as possible, Longao directly chose the path of death in order to find the divine path inheritance as soon as possible. But also because of this, Longao could not figure out why the three major forces did not enter the path of death, but had chosen the so-called path of life for so many years. Longao could almost be sure that the three major forces knew about the paths of life and death. If so, why did the three major forces still do this? Unable to figure it out, Longao did not continue to dwell on this question. The more important purpose of entering the life and death world this time was to obtain the divine path inheritance, and then go to the higher martial artists alliance. At that time, he would have a chance to see Yuyin. Without looking back, Longao had already guessed that whether it was the Sword Sect or the Wanjan School, they must have chosen the path of death. In any case, this time the Sword Sect and the Wanjan School had sent masters into the life and death world to kill him. According to the information he had heard, Longao knew very well that the three major forces had almost chosen to give up the life and death world for so many years, so the people who entered the life and death world every year were all nobodies. Only this time. The purpose was very obvious, and only a fool could not see it. Murong Yener quickened her pace and came to Longao's side, asking with an extremely solemn expression, "Longao, do you know what you are doing?" As for Murong Yener, Longao truly had a good impression of her. He firmly believed that Murong Yener did not choose the path of death to kill him. It was the exact opposite of what the others had in mind. It was precisely because of this that Longao regarded Murong Yener as a true friend. "Yener, you should know that the inheritance of the divine path must exist in the life and death world, but for so many years, no one has been able to find it. Don't you know the reason?" After taking a deep look at Longao, Murong Yener suddenly sighed. After thinking about it, Murong Yener finally said, "Longao, since you've already guessed it, I won't hide it from you." As expected. Back then, we had already guessed that the divine inheritance was within the path of death. However, after so many years, no matter how many people entered the path of death, only death awaited them. Longao had already guessed what Murong Yener had said. If that's the case, why did they still follow? Was it to deal with me? I don't need to say it. In fact, you should understand that the higher-ups gave a death order. They clearly knew that there was no return from the path of death, but they still had to follow. Longao was not angry at all. In fact, he admired these people a little. In any case, the loyalty of these people to the sect could almost be trusted. Otherwise, they would not have insisted on following the path of death, which was a path of no return. Longao, since you have chosen the path of death, then you must be careful. After all, for so many years, countless people have entered the path of death and could not leave alive. He nodded his head. How could Longao not know about this point? Be careful and alert. Not only did he have to be careful to deal with all unexpected situations, but he also had to protect Murong Yener. Longao could be sure that in order to obtain the so-called inheritance of the divine path, the three major forces would definitely send many powerful warriors into the life and death world. In the end, all of them would fall on the path of death. After a while, everyone had crossed the bridge of life and death. After the bridge of life and death, there was a black space with stars everywhere. It was as if they were standing under the stars. It was extremely beautiful. Black Wolf. Waving his hand before the 5 people could speak, Longao had already said, "Let's talk about the grievances between you and me later. Let's think about how to deal with the existence in front of us." What did he mean? Everyone was very curious about Longao's words and did not know what it meant. At this time, Dong Fang Shuo exclaimed, pointing at the huge creature in front of him and swallowing his saliva fiercely. A giant dragon? Everyone looked at the huge creature in front of them. There was no doubt that everyone knew the legendary giant dragon, but no one could figure out why a giant dragon would appear in this place. The Dragon Clan was one of the most powerful existences in the world. Long family teamed up with the Long family, which could almost compete with the Martial Artists Alliance. One could imagine how powerful the Dragon Clan was. Blue Dragon. Hearing the 2 words, Blue Dragon, Longao's heart thumped. He more or less knew a little about the Blue Dragon. As a relatively powerful giant dragon of the Dragon Clan, the strength of the Blue Dragon was absolutely terrifying. It was said that the Blue Dragon had a super martial arts technique, which was to freeze anything in an instant. Its power was almost the same as that of the Ice Dragon. Everyone stared at the Blue Dragon, and the Blue Dragon also stared at everyone. Although the Blue Dragon did not move, everyone knew very well that they had been locked on by the Blue Dragon. Longao, Murong Yener, Dong Fang Shuo, and others. No one dared to take a step in this situation. No one knew when the blue dragon would attack them. Because of this, they finally knew why for so many years, countless masters and seniors had entered the road of death in the life and death realm, but no one could leave alive. Longao, what should we do now? Murong Yenner didn't care about her two companions at all, because the two of them were not from the sword sect at all, but masters sent by a higher level sword sect. Therefore, their life and death had nothing to do with her. Let's wait and see. Longao didn't have a good way. After all, the one in front of him was a giant dragon. Although he was a disciple of the Long family and had the blood of the Long family in his body, the blue dragon in front of him was obviously not a member of the dragon clan. No one dared to move and stared at the blue dragon in front of them. Slowly, Dongfang Shu and others began to retreat step by step, trying to leave here. As for killing Longao, it was bullshit. No. Seeing that everyone was trying to turn around and leave, Longao was shocked, but it was too late because the blue dragon obviously knew what was going on. The dragon's roar sounded, and a terrifying dragon's breath instantly enveloped the surrounding space. Longao cursed fiercely in his heart. There was no other way. Things had already come to this point, and they could only find a way to leave here. Longao took Murong Yenner's hand and immediately rushed forward. Seeing that Longao did not retreat but instead moved forward, everyone was taken aback. They didn't know if Longao's brain was flooded with water. Chapter 860. The blue dragon was guarding the space. According to a normal person's logic, they should retreat. But what about Longao and Murong Yenner? Not only did they not retreat, but they also rushed forward. They were simply seeking their own deaths. However, no one cared about the two of them. They rushed forward with all their might. Then, a shocking scene happened. Because the life and death bridge just now suddenly disappeared, there was no way out. Who could be a match for the blue dragon? Longao and the others could clearly sense that this blue dragon was a spiritual beast of the titled Great Emperor level. It was only one step away from becoming a divine dragon. They were doomed. Everyone was in despair. It was also because of this that everyone finally knew why the three major forces had sent countless experts into the path of death, but none of them had been able to leave alive. In other words, unless a supreme Tao warrior personally came to the life and death boundary, it would be very difficult for anyone to walk out alive. The blue dragon's strength was too terrifying. Just its aura alone was enough to kill everyone here. But what made everyone relieved was that the blue dragon did not chase after them. Instead, it blocked the path of Longao and Murong Yenner and stared at them. There was no excitement because everyone knew that even if Longao and Murong Yenner could attract the blue dragon for a while, what about later? There was no doubt. Once Longao and Murong Yenner were killed by the blue dragon, it would be their turn next. In other words, everyone would definitely die in this situation. Longao, we're finished this time. Longao did not admit defeat. At this moment, a dragon's roar sounded. Just as everyone was in a daze, a huge black dragon suddenly soared into the sky. Its body was similar to Longao's, but its aura was not as strong as Longao's. Another huge black dragon? Everyone was not stupid. Of course, they knew that this huge black dragon was summoned by Longao. Longao could summon a huge black dragon. What did it mean? Could it be that Longao was a dragon warrior? As everyone knew, in the entire Sky Martial continent, no matter where one went, there was only one type of person who could summon a giant dragon. Long family dragon martial artists. In other words, only a dragon warrior could summon a giant dragon. Because of this, no one would have thought that Black Wolf was actually a dragon warrior. But at this moment, no one had the time to think about that. After all, the blue dragon was still a threat to them. Longao, you really are a dragon warrior. Murong Yenner didn't seem to be too surprised, because when she heard that Longao was a dragon and knew about Longao's past, she had already guessed that Longao was most likely a dragon warrior. Now, it seemed that her guess was correct. At this time, Longao couldn't care about anything else. Longao arrived on Long Chang's body and looked at the blue dragon in front of him. "Senior, we accidentally broke into the life and death realm. I hope you can let us go." Seeing Long Chang's sudden appearance, the blue dragon seemed to be very surprised. He didn't attack immediately, but snorted coldly. "You accidentally broke into the life and death realm? For so many years, there have been people who entered every other year. Was it all by accident?" Ck Longao cursed fiercely in his heart. It seemed that the blue dragon already knew. In that case, there was no point in continuing to hide it. It was better to tell the truth. "In that case, Senior Blue Dragon, I won't hide it from you. This time, I entered the life and death realm mainly for the divine Tao inheritance. I hope Senior Blue Dragon can help me." The divine Tao inheritance must be obtained. Because Lu Yun had already said that as long as he could obtain the divine Tao inheritance, he could enter the higher level martial artists alliance. At that time, he might be able to directly enter the real martial artists alliance and meet Yuin. For Yuin, he would not hesitate to climb a mountain of swords or plunge into a sea of fire. Lan Long snorted coldly again and said, "Boy, don't think that just because you are a dragon warrior that you can casually obtain the inheritance of the divine path. Back then, I promised that person that I would protect the inheritance of the divine path here. Since that is the case, no matter who it is, even if it is the dragon god of the dragon clan, I will protect it with my life unless I die." Big trouble. Longao was very clear that there was a divine Tao inheritance in the life and death realm. It seemed that it was true. But with the blue dragon's protection, it was almost impossible to get the divine Tao inheritance, unless a divine Tao warrior came in person. But would a divine Tao warrior come? They were already divine Tao warriors, so why would they take the risk to look for the so-called divine Tao inheritance? But for some reason, Longao always had a feeling that there must be a divine Tao warrior in the life and death realm. As for the result, he still didn't know. "Boy, for the sake of you being a dragon warrior, I will let you go. You and your partners can leave here." "What about the others?" Longao didn't care about the life and death of the others, but only Murong Yener couldn't be harmed. If the blue dragon really didn't want to, then he would protect Murong Yener even if he had to die. Longao was such a person. To his friends, he was affectionate and righteous. Even if it meant going through water and treading on fire, he would not hesitate. But to his enemies, Longao would never show mercy, because he knew one thing clearly: mercy to the enemy was the greatest cruelty to oneself. "You take care of yourself. The rest will die here." Hearing the blue dragon's words, everyone, including Murong Yener, suddenly changed their faces. Because the blue dragon's strength was there, it was not easy for them to leave here. Would Longao give up on her? Murong Yener was really unsure, staring at Longao in midair. Everyone was waiting for Longao's answer. Time seemed to have stopped. Not only everyone, but even the blue dragon wanted to know the other party's decision. Longao didn't even think and said, "I won't save my enemies, but for my friends, no matter when, no matter what happens, I will not choose to give up. Senior Blue Dragon, even if you and I fight and die here, I will protect my friends." "Ha ha ha, good, I admire you. But boy, if you want to save your friends, there's no problem, but you have to take one of my moves. If you don't die, I will let the two of you leave, and you will have the opportunity to obtain the divine Tao inheritance. But if you unfortunately die, then I'm sorry, but not only you, even your friends will die." Longao was very clear what the blue dragon's move meant, but did he have a choice? He didn't have a choice. After all, the initiative was in the blue dragon's hands, and not in his hands. He had no choice but to nod and agree. Immediately after, Long Chang returned to the dragon seal space, and Longao stood beside Murong Yener again. Why are you doing this? Longao smiled and said firmly. You chose the path of death for me, why can't I choose to live and die with you? P.S. Little 9 will continue to write, the probability of a blackout is 1%. I hope I'm not so unlucky, I'll go make some noodles first. Chapter 861. Murong Yenner didn't say much, but there was a strange look in her eyes. Murong Yenner took 10 steps back. Longao stared at Blue Dragon in front of him and said, Senior, please. Blue Dragon nodded in appreciation. Suddenly, Blue Dragon spat out a blue light from his mouth and instantly enveloped Longao. Puff. Spitting out blood, Longao's body was frozen. It was as if he had been frozen for 10,000 years. It was very painful. If it was an ordinary person, they would have died at this moment. However, Longao's situation was very special. He had the sacred body of desolation. Although it couldn't be said to be immortal, ordinary attacks really couldn't erase Longao. Without the sacred body of desolation, it was believed that Longao would have died thousands of times. The ice shattered, and Longao's body flew out in an instant, like a kite with a broken string. Just when everyone thought that Longao, including Blue Dragon, would definitely die, Longao turned around abruptly and resisted. Looking at Longao, who was on the verge of collapse and extremely pale, everyone was completely dumbfounded. No one could have thought that Longao could really resist Blue Dragon's move. If they hadn't seen it with their own eyes, they wouldn't have believed it even if they were beaten to death. Blue Dragon didn't seem to have thought of it either. But things had already reached this point. If he returned, where would his face go? Ha ha, what a dragon warrior! Boy, you're very good. Let's go. After saying that, Longao and Murong Yenner's bodies disappeared. Looking at the two people who had left, the rest of the people were completely panicked. Dong Fangshui immediately said, Senior Blue Dragon, please let us go. In the future, even if we have to be cattle or horses, we won't have the slightest complaint. Dong Fangshui and the others knew very well that they were not dragon warriors. The blue dragon in front of them would not give them the slightest face. Were they really going to die here? They were unwilling. Why could Black Wolf leave, but they couldn't? Blue Dragon coldly snorted and said, If you want to leave here alive, you can. Just like the kid just now, take one of my moves. Hearing Blue Dragon's words, everyone was completely dumbfounded. No one was confident that they could withstand Blue Dragon's attack. Who knew how Black Wolf did it? However, if they wanted to leave this place alive, the 5 of them could only accept it. Just like that, the 5 of them took the Blue Dragon's attack head-on, but the result was obvious. After Longao and Murong Yenner disappeared, they appeared in another valley in the blink of an eye. The entire valley was shrouded in black fog. It was pitch black in all directions, giving people a very oppressive feeling. Longao, I don't know why, but I always feel like we're in the hands of someone else. Longao nodded. How could he not know what Murong Yenner meant? Not only her, but he also felt the same way. It was as if the two of them were being led by the nose. As for Blue Dragon just now, it seemed to have intentionally let the two of them go. Longao didn't know why, but he had a feeling that Blue Dragon didn't use its full strength in that attack. Otherwise, he wouldn't have just suffered some superficial wounds. Although Longao was very confident in his sacred desolation physique, he knew his own limits. As a titled Great Emperor-level spiritual beast, Blue Dragon's strength could be imagined. Longao didn't tell Murong Yenner about this. Yenner, be careful. Something isn't right here. I know. Murong Yenner didn't know if she was really afraid or faking it. She gently pulled Longao's hand with a strange expression on her face. Under normal circumstances, Longao definitely wouldn't be like this. However, in this environment, Longao knew very well that Murong Yenner was still a girl. She was more or less afraid. The two of them held hands and slowly walked into the depths of the valley. Every step they took was done carefully. They were fully alert and ready to deal with any sudden situations around them. Be careful! Longao was shocked and pulled Murong Yener into his arms. At this moment, countless sword auras suddenly shot out from all directions. They were exactly the same as the countless sword auras in the sword aura space. Longao naturally knew what the power of the sword auras shot out from all directions meant. He didn't dare to be careless. He kept moving around with Murong Yener. With the help of spatial teleportation, the countless sword auras wanted to hurt Longao and Murong Yener. However, Longao knew very well that his injuries hadn't completely recovered. If he forcefully used spatial teleportation continuously, it wouldn't be of much benefit to his recovery. He had to end the battle quickly. The longer he delayed, the worse it would be for him. Longao, put me down! Otherwise, you will also be hurt by the sword auras. Murong Yener seemed to have a special feeling for Longao. In particular, Longao didn't give up on her twice in such a situation. Murong Yener was even more touched. I've already said that no matter what happens, I will take you out of the life and death world. Longao ignored Murong Yener. In desperation, he could only use the power of the god's slaying sword. The sword auras from all directions continuously attacked. Each sword aura was incomparably powerful. Longao could clearly sense that whether it was him or Murong Yener, as long as they were hit by the sword auras, they would be seriously injured even if they didn't die. It was precisely because of this that Longao could only use the god's slaying sword in the end. Taking a deep breath, Longao channeled all the power in his body into his right hand. With a raise of his eyebrows, the sword aura of the god's slaying sword quickly shot out. The sword aura shot out by the god's slaying sword was like a rainbow piercing the sun. With just a circle, the sword aura had already formed an air shield. A shocking scene happened. Countless sword auras from all directions were still attacking the sword aura shield. However, the sword aura of the god's slaying sword was too powerful. The surrounding sword auras couldn't break through the sword aura shield at all, let alone hurt Longao and Murong Yener. However, Longao was still very serious because he knew that this wasn't a long-term solution. The sword auras from all directions were constantly attacking from afar. Even if the sword aura shot out by the god's slaying sword could temporarily block the sword auras, it could only block for a while and not for a lifetime. What should I do? Longao's mind was spinning rapidly. After thinking about it, he couldn't think of a better way. Where did the sword auras come from? As the saying goes, shoot the horse to shoot the man, and capture the leader to capture the bandits. If he could find the source of the sword auras, then it should be relatively easy to break through the sword auras. Longao waved the god's slaying sword. The sword auras from all directions couldn't get close to him. Longao slowly continued to shoot forward. He couldn't stay here forever. Otherwise, the two of them would be killed by the sword auras sooner or later. Longao, what should we do? Murong Yener was very shocked by Longao's strength. Even now, Murong Yener was very curious. Just how many secrets did Longao have? Chapter 862. Longao's speed was not considered fast. After all, the valley was full of dangers and he had to be careful with every step. The valley was very big. Longao walked for 2 hours and still felt that he had not reached the deepest part of the valley. What was going on? Longao suddenly stopped and said with a serious face, Yener, you have to be careful. Remember, no matter what happens, don't be more than 3 steps away from me. Murong Yener nodded when she saw how nervous Longao was. Longao's eyes were fixed on his surroundings as he waved the Godslayer sword. His eyes could see through everything. Suddenly, Longao seemed to see something. Swords? Longao found it hard to imagine that there were countless swords around the valley and that the so-called sword chi was coming from the countless swords. Although he did not know who was behind this, He had to get rid of these swords if he wanted to leave this place alive. The God-Slayer sword in Longao's hand started to move at an unimaginable speed. The sword chi was like a tornado and instantly swept up the countless sword chi in the surroundings. Under the strong suction force of the sword chi tornado, the sword chi in Western Zhou was instantly destroyed. At this time, the surrounding swords also began to move. A strange scene appeared. The sword chi tornado with Longao and Murong Yener as the center was surrounded by swords. There was no sword chi, but it was even more dangerous. Break! Longao roared. The God-Slayer's sword shot out countless sword chi and destroyed all the sharp swords around them. If it wasn't for Murong Yener's support, Longao would have fallen to the ground. Just now, in order to destroy all the sharp swords, he did not hesitate to use all of his strength. Although this could turn danger into safety, Longao was very clear that he would be devoured at any time, and even be taken advantage of by the blood pool. Longao, are you okay? Waving his hand, Longao resisted the weakness in his body and forced himself not to fall. He said, "Let's go." Murong Yener was aware of the severity of the situation as well. She did not dare to linger any longer. Both of them continued to move forward quickly. This time, there were no sword chi attacks. The two of them soon arrived at the end of the valley. At the end of the valley, which was also the so-called deepest part, there was a stone wall. It was at least a few dozen meters long, and there was no end in sight. The two of them stood in front of the stone tablet, and looked at their own images on the stone tablet. For a moment, they didn't know what to say. "Yener, did you find anything?" "No." Longao's soul had entered the dragon's seal space. "Long Fu, can you sense what's going on here? What is this stone tablet in front of me?" Although he had already sensed that there was nothing wrong with the stone tablet, for some reason, Longao felt that there was something wrong with the stone tablet. After all, the stone tablet was in the deepest part of the valley. "Master, I've already sensed it. The valley you're in is actually an illusion. The stone tablet you're looking at is the exit." "Just as expected." "Then what should I do?" "Very simple." With Long Fu's help, Longao already knew what to do. He said a few words to Murong Yener. The two of them immediately circulated their soul force and poured it into the stone tablet in front of them. Then, the two of them disappeared. Just as Long Fu said, the two of them were in an illusion, and the stone tablet was the exit. Just like that, Longao left the so-called illusion. Behind the stone tablet was another mountain valley. However, Longao was certain that the mountain valley that the two of them were currently in was a real existence, and not the so-called illusion from before. Before the two of them could figure out what was going on, the two of them were enveloped by a white light and instantly disappeared. Inside a cave that was neither big nor small. The layout of the cave was very simple, but it was very clean. In the middle of the cave sat a skeleton. "Senior, we didn't mean to offend you. Please forgive us." "Longao, are you talking to him?" Nodding his head, before Longao could speak, the skeleton's eyes suddenly opened and said with a smile, "You're indeed a talent. What's your name?" Looking at the skeleton's resurrection, Murong Yener was shocked. However, it was obvious that the skeleton was the so-called divine Tao inheritance. It seemed that they had successfully passed through the trial. She didn't know if it was good luck or bad luck. Murong Yener didn't say anything and retreated to the side. She knew very well that it was all because of Longao that she could pass through the trial. Therefore, the divine Tao inheritance should be given to Longao. "Senior, my name is Longao." After thinking for a while, Longao asked, "How should I address Senior?" "You can call me Yama." "What a strange name," Longao still said. "Senior Yama, I'm sorry for not recognizing you." Suddenly, the skeleton sighed deeply and said helplessly, "It's been so many years since I fell, but I still haven't found an inheritor. You're the first person to pass through 2 trials. Congratulations." Sure enough, it seemed that he had guessed correctly. The skeleton in front of him was the so-called divine Tao inheritance. However, did he really want to accept the inheritance? Longao knew very well that if he wanted to refine the divine Tao inheritance, he didn't need to wait until now. He could have casually refined any divine Tao inheritance a few months ago. No matter what, back then, he had obtained more than 1,000 supreme Tao inheritances. Any one of them could allow him to become a supreme Tao ancient martial art practitioner. However, he chose to give up in the end. Since he didn't choose to refine the divine Tao inheritance, he still wouldn't do it now. Longao's decision was hard to change because he wanted to walk his own martial Tao path. Senior Yama, to tell you the truth, I had obtained the divine Tao inheritance, but I didn't accept it. Longao didn't continue speaking, but the meaning in his words was already very clear. He knew that as long as Yama wasn't a fool, he would definitely understand what he meant. Longao, what was the strength of the divine Tao inheritance that you obtained? Longao didn't hide this point in the slightest and said, Divine concentration realm. Divine concentration? Murong Yener sighed because in the eyes of ordinary martial Tao warriors, divine concentration martial Tao warriors were already high above and untouchable existences. Even if it was such a divine Tao inheritance, Longao didn't accept it. If Longao didn't say it himself, she really wouldn't believe that in this world, there was really someone who could resist the temptation of the divine Tao inheritance. No matter whether Longao could do it or not, Murong Yener asked herself, she was afraid that she couldn't do it. Yama seemed to be a little surprised. After all, there were very few people who could resist the temptation of the divine Tao inheritance. Longao, the divine Tao 5 realms. What you encountered was only the divine concentration realm. You're right. Not to mention the divine concentration realm, even if it was the divine realm, so what? Longao didn't speak. Longao, have you heard of the supreme divine Tao? Chapter 863. Supreme Shinto? Longao really didn't know about the Supreme Shinto mentioned by Yama. However, Longao wasn't a fool. Of course, he knew what the Supreme Shinto mentioned by Yama meant. Could it be that the Supreme Shinto was an existence above the Shinto? If that was the case, then it was really too terrifying. No matter what, he had always thought that the Shinto warriors were the most powerful existence. Especially the God of Heaven, they were the pinnacle existence apart from the heavenly Tao. But now, he never thought that a Supreme Shinto would suddenly appear. Longao didn't know about the Supreme Shinto, but when Murong Yener heard the word Supreme Shinto, her whole body trembled. Obviously, Murong Yener knew what it meant. It seems that someone knows about the Supreme Shinto. Yama smiled and continued. Since the little girl knows, you might as well tell her what the Supreme Shinto represents. Longao turned around. Although he didn't speak, his eyes were very clear. Smiling helplessly, Murong Yener said, Strictly speaking, the Supreme Shinto is actually also a Shinto. However, when one's cultivation reaches this step, it has already entered another level. Longao didn't speak because he really wanted to hear about the Supreme Shinto. Longao, I can tell you this. In front of the Supreme Shinto, the God of Heaven can only be regarded as a joke. Without waiting for Murong Yener to finish, Yama suddenly waved his hand and said with a smile, That's enough. Longao was very curious, but still, he didn't speak. Longao, the Supreme Shinto is also a divine king. As long as you can accept my inheritance, then I can guarantee that in less than 10 years, you will be the next divine king warrior. At that time, you can soar freely in the heavens and earth. Longao lowered his head and pondered. It was undeniable that the conditions that Yama just mentioned were too tempting. If it was an ordinary person, it would be impossible to resist such temptation. Once the Supreme Shinto inheritance was accepted, then one could become a divine king warrior. One must know that the Supreme Shinto was a super existence above the God of Heaven. Could it be that he really had to accept the Supreme Divine Tao inheritance? After thinking about it, Longao finally decided to give up. The reason was very simple. He wanted to walk his own path as a martial artist. What belonged to others would always belong to others. It would never belong to him. You could say that. Refining the supreme divine Tao and becoming a God-King martial artist was completely different from breaking through to the God-King realm. Senior, I'm sorry, but I still want to walk my own martial path. Hearing this, Yama's face instantly turned cold. After all, if such a temptation was rejected by the other party, where would he put his face? Earlier, when Yama wanted to find a successor, of course he would speak nicely. Now that he was rejected on the spot, if Yama still spoke nicely, he wouldn't be a God-King. Longao, do you know what the Supreme Divine Tao means? Seeing that the skeleton in front of them wasn't willing to give up, both Longao and Murong Yener were curious. After all, for a super warrior like the God-King, finding an inheritor was something that could be done in a matter of minutes. Because of this, Longao couldn't understand why the skeleton in front of him chose him. Senior, I believe you should know that the martial path you cultivate and the martial path you inherit are two different things. How could Yama not know about the matter that Longao had mentioned? However, for so many years, he had been bitterly searching for his own inheritor. However, he didn't find anything. Now that he finally found a suitable inheritance, how could Yama choose to give it up so easily? However, Yama looked at the determined Longao and sighed deeply. He said, "Since you aren't willing to accept the inheritance, I won't force you. However, Longao, you have to know that if you lose this opportunity, I'm afraid that if you want to reach the God-King realm in the future." Although Yama didn't finish his words, the meaning in his words was very clear. After all, the Supreme Divine Tao wasn't that easy to reach. How could Longao not understand Yama's words? However, Longao didn't regret it. If he wanted to obtain the inheritance of the Divine Tao, he would have had more than 1,000 chances to refine it when he had obtained more than 1,000 Divine Tao inheritances. However, no matter when, Longao didn't refine it. His goal was to walk his own martial path. Senior, I won't regret what I've decided. In that case, you can leave. Yama sighed deeply. He originally thought that he could obtain the inheritance of the Divine Tao and enter the higher-level Martial Artists Alliance. However, he never expected that the inheritance of the Divine Tao was real, and it was a Supreme Divine Tao inheritance. Longao was very confident in his own strength, but he also knew his own limits. Even if Yama's original body was destroyed and only a remnant soul existed, it was still easy for him to kill him. Little girl, since he isn't willing to accept my inheritance, what about you? Hearing this, Longao was overjoyed. Because no matter what, if Murong Yener could really accept Yama's inheritance, he was really happy for Murong Yener. After all, Yama was a Supreme Divine Tao warrior. If Murong Yener could really obtain the inheritance, it would be great news for her to become a Divine King warrior in the future. Longao looked at Murong Yener. He sincerely hoped that Murong Yener would agree. But the result made Longao's jaw drop. Sorry, I'm not interested in your inheritance. Hearing this, Yama was furious. However, for some reason, Yama's expression softened instantly. He smiled and said, I can't wait much longer. Since I'm fated to be with you, take my inheritance out and help me find a fated person. Huh? What happened? Just now, when Murong Yener rejected Yama's inheritance, Longao clearly sensed a strong murderous aura from Yama. However, for some reason, Yama's aura suddenly changed. Not only was there no murderous aura, but he was also calm and even allowed them to take the inheritance out. This change seemed to be too fast, so fast that it was a bit fake. Longao didn't know what was going on with Yama, but since Yama was willing to let them take the inheritance out, it was always a good thing. He nodded and said, We will not disappoint you and help you find a fated person to inherit your inheritance. Yama smiled and nodded. He waved his hand, and a golden core appeared in Longao's hand. Yama said. This golden core is my inheritance. You can leave. From now on, don't enter the life and death realm, because the life and death realm will be closed from now on. Although Longao was a little unwilling, he was content. Although he didn't get the divine Tao inheritance that he had imagined, he got a supreme divine Tao inheritance. P.S. After yesterday's 10 chapters, I'll update 5 chapters today. There's no status. I'll rest for a day. Maybe it's because I've been staying up too late these days. You're tuning into the Phoenix Nights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.